Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
And welcome in to the Sports Ballers podcast. This is episode 220. I'm Corey Puffett, joined as always by Eric Meyer and Evan Ash. Happy last day of November, guys.
I guess.
Some people are celebrating for reasons we can't discuss on here.
I don't know what they are, but okay.
Tomorrow is a big day for them.
Is it?
Yes, if you're
Oh,
partaking.
Jesus. Anyway.
I have no idea. So I'm going to have to
Probably should
enlighten
keep it
me
that way.
post-pod.
Yes, that can be post-pod. Yes, happy last day of November. How are you guys doing now that we've gone off the rails already?
Like I said, I'm celebrating. I'm just kidding. I'm doing good. It's been a long week. I'm glad it's at least halfway over, or I guess after hump day, we're more than halfway over because we're over the hump. So feeling pretty good. Got the blinds guys coming tomorrow. If there's ever a tale of turning into your parents as a homeowner, you're getting excited because you're getting new blinds. That's my life. That's what I'm doing.
So what kind of blinds are they going to be? Can they both, they drop down from the top and raise from the bottom?
Yeah, they're top down and bottom up. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those are
fancy.
pretty cool.
Exactly.
My parents have some of those at their house.
Exactly. That's my point. That is my point.
Evan, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good because I ate dinner before the podcast,
Whoa.
which is atypical. Yeah.
you go.
I got a gigantic protein shake.
That's
why
a big protein shake.
That's why I was exactly on time.
I had dinner. This is delicious. Rashonda made some completely homemade, like from scratch mac and cheese. Made some collard greens and some ham.
Sounds delightful.
Yeah, it was delicious. It's like a Thanksgiving after Thanksgiving kind of meal. And I might fall asleep on this podcast. So if anybody hears any snoring, Eric and Evan may have to take over at some point. We'll see what happens. All right. Tonight on the show, no NBA because apparently nothing notable is going on. Like nobody put any topics in here. Eric has nothing to say.
You're asking me if I want to amend that? I mean, nothing really exciting happened. We had some good games, right? Like the Mavericks and the Warriors played last night. That was a fun game. The Mavericks and the Bucks played over the weekend, and the Bucks smoked them. So,
There you go.
it's kind of same old, same old.
Not much in the way of Major League Baseball news. The Yankees have reportedly, and the source is a little bit sketchy on this, so I don't know if I fully buy it, but supposedly the Yankees have offered Aaron Judge an 8-year, $300 million contract, which would make him like the highest paid player ever by AAV.
Good.
Which, I mean, if that's the case, he absolutely deserves that, and hopefully he will accept that offer. But we shall see what happens with that. So instead, this week, let's start with football, all football. But we're going to start with the fake football. And this week, I don't mean college football. That's also fake football, but it's not as fake as the fake football of FIFA World Cup action. Sorry, sort of just kidding, not really. But the U.S. men's team advanced to the knockout round with a 1-0 victory over Iran on Tuesday after scoring draws against both Wales and England.
That's Iran, Corey. Don't be ignorant like Tyler Adams was, and that jackass of a journalist admonished him for that. That was just unbelievable. You didn't see that?
No, I did not see that.
Was just...
In any case, I mean, everybody is still mispronouncing Qatar on there too. So, like
That was Qatar.
exactly.
It's Qatar.
Yeah, it's Qatar. But
Qatar.
yeah. But
Oh, boy.
whatever. Nobody is pronouncing it that way. It's like, but
well, see, this is something I don't understand though, because like, do people really get up in arms about this? Because the Italians don't call Italy Italy, it's Italia, and the Japanese don't call Japan Japan, it's Nippon. But do they get mad? It's like we have a completely different word for it for those two.
Yeah.
Like this is just an issue of pronunciation, and people got all offended, or at least this guy did, because he wanted to, talk smack about America because Iran's got a lot going on there. Oops, Iran. I'm sorry.
I've got some issues. First, like, why are we having the World Cup in a country where dozens of people live? Okay. It doesn't matter how you.
Well, no,
pronounce it.
there are millions of people who are residing there currently, but yes, so many of them are not permanent residents. Many of them are, enslaved in modern terms.
They're
modern
slaves.
form.
Yeah.
So, that's great.
So yeah, a lot going on in Iran these days, including a fan who was celebrating America's win getting killed there. So
What?
yeah, apparently that happened. But in any case, the actual sport, after scoring draws against both Wales and England, the U.S. men's team wound up as the runner-up in their group, and so they will advance to the round of 16, and they will be playing the Netherlands on Saturday. Eric, I know you've actually watched some of the action, so anything noteworthy to talk about with the World Cup?
I mean, some of it, I would say probably closer to all of it. Like, I only missed a big chunk of the second half of the game against England because I had to go to the Maryland basketball game. But they showed the conclusion of that match, which was the same thing as the start of the match, which was no goals were scored. Obviously, the first game, match, whatever you want to call it, I watched in its entirety when the United States played Wales. They got up to a 1-0 lead. Had a bad penalty late that led to a penalty kick. Wales cashed it in. That resulted in a draw. That almost immediately put the United States' hopes of advancing out of the group stage in jeopardy, just because it felt like you needed to get a win against Wales because you probably weren't going to beat England. And, you don't want to have to count on winning that third game, especially when that opponent only needs a draw and they can play it accordingly. But to their credit, and to Christian Pulisic's credit, they got it done. I mean, he scored the goal. He sacrificed his body to do so. He missed the rest of the match. Presumably, he's going to be healthy for their match on Saturday against the Netherlands. But, none of us here are soccer fans. Like, we only talk about this because it's the world stage. We ignored this last week entirely, even though something had happened.
Oh, no.
But, I still root for the United States to do well in these type of tournaments. It's like the Olympics. I don't watch all these Olympic sports year round. I don't follow swimming or...
You don't watch equestrian every day?
No, I'm sorry to say, Corey, I don't follow track and field or cross country or anything like that regularly.
I don't follow track and field regularly, and quite frankly, I don't really follow much cross country outside of my team because they are who get the bulk of my attention.
That's your domain, yes. But during events where it's an international stage and there's country pride on the line, if you will, I'm going to root for our guys. And that's what I did. I can't pretend I knew exactly all the things that went right or wrong. I'm not a soccer aficionado by any means, but they got through the group stage. I think that's the most important thing. Whatever happens on Saturday, I think most people are expecting a loss, but hey, you got to the round of 16 again. After making it in 2014, making it in 2010, not even qualifying for the World Cup in 2018, and presumably this team's on the rise. It's a young squad, and people are looking at 2026 for a year where they could actually make some legitimate noise in the World Cup and potentially go deep. So,
While hosting it.
Yes, while hosting it, and not having it in November because it's 140 degrees in the summertime in Qatar.
Yep, there you go. So let's talk about the fake football, college football. Not exactly fake football. I'm just,
Just being a jerk.
Yeah, exactly. Ohio State got smashed at home against Michigan, 43-25. And, to be fair, it was two very late, long touchdown runs that made the spread as big as it was, but they still got, smashed.
Those
they lost
count.
by 18 points. They still
those
count. They were in regulation. They should have stopped them. They didn't either time, despite plenty of room to try and catch up to him before he got to the goal line. What happened here? Like, Michigan hasn't won in Columbus in a long time.
Since 2000.
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan, I think Ohio State may have been the better team, but they fell apart late. Like, they just crumbled. They made a bunch of dumb mistakes. They couldn't block anybody suddenly. Meanwhile, Michigan's quarterback, when he was running the ball, was unstoppable. That's how you lose games. And Ohio State fans are some people are suggesting that Ohio State's coach should be fired because he's lost 2 games in a row to Michigan. And I'm sorry, Ohio State fans, you don't understand what a rivalry is, okay? You lose sometimes. This is why you hate them, remember? Y'all don't have a hatred toward Ohio U or Youngstown State. You beat like a drum just for fun. It's the school up north. So if it's a rivalry, you're going to lose some of the games. Get the coach fired. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable.
Yeah, I watched most of this game and
The game.
yeah, the game. Yes, on Big Day Saturday.
Beat me to it.
You knew it. But this is the second year in a row that it just felt like, to use a cliche, Michigan wanted it more. But also, Michigan's just more physical. They're able to move people at the line of scrimmage. They're able to get out and run the ball. Whereas Ohio State's been a little bit more finesse over the last 5 or 6 years. It was just a matter of, before Michigan simply didn't have the talent to keep pace, even though they had probably a little bit more grit and determination. But it's like you're just going to lose when you're going up against guys like Justin Fields with 2 NFL or future NFL receivers at his disposal, along with several offensive linemen. You're just not going to win when the talent disparity is that high. But Michigan's closed the gap a bit. And let's face it, Ryan Day, I think he's a good coach. There's no way I think he should be fired. But as much as I hate to say it, because I hate giving this man any credit, Ryan Day isn't as good of a coach as Urban Meyer was, at least not at the collegiate level. And maybe he will be someday, but Urban's teams won at the biggest level. He won national championships at Florida. He won a national championship at Ohio State. He perennially had Ohio State in the college football playoff, or at the very least right on the cusp of getting there. And that's a transitional period that you lost an all-time great college coach. That's just what's happened. You're going to have a little bit of a step down, and Jim Harbaugh is no slouch. Sometimes the tide turns against you, and the other team gets you a couple times. They've gotten them 2 years in a row, and I didn't expect Michigan to beat them as badly as they did, but I wasn't shocked that they won that game because I watched Maryland play both of those teams, and while Maryland was competitive in both, Michigan was clearly better than the Terps, whereas Ohio State was begging to be beat. Right? Like at no point did I think Maryland was going to that Maryland was going to beat Michigan. I legitimately looked at the Ohio State game and was like, there were 2 moments in that game where I was like, this isn't out of the question that we win this game. Like, halftime, the Terps were up, and then they were down by 3 with the ball at home, driving to take the lead. They didn't, but that was a moment where I was like, damn, we might win this game. Whereas with Michigan, I was like, we ain't winning this game. We can't move the ball on well enough. They're too much. Like, the Terps played respectably against Michigan, but Michigan was clearly better. Ohio State, despite I know they're better than Maryland, but they didn't look the part, and they haven't looked the part for a couple of weeks.
Well, despite this loss, Ohio State is still just outside of the College Football Playoff. They are ranked number 5 in the latest rankings, just ahead of Alabama. The top 4 are Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and USC. Does Ohio State get back into the College Football Playoff? And if so, which team is most likely going to be bounced? Is it TCU or USC? Because Georgia and Michigan are locks at this point. I
think Georgia and Michigan are locks. I feel like TCU is a lock as well. USC, they're clearly the fourth best team of these four.
They're ranked that way, so
yeah,
it sounds like you agree with the voters.
Yeah, I get the sense they might be a little shaky. And I mean, they're playing a Utah team that I think beat them already this season. I have to check that, but they have the toughest opponent of the top four who are all playing for a conference championship.
Yeah, they have the toughest opponent, and they also have no wiggle room because they already have a loss, right? Like, they lose the second game, then there's a very strong justification to put Ohio State back in the top four. So,
Absolutely.
And people have talked about, well, what about Alabama? Alabama's eliminated.
Alabama.
And when they were
They
talking
have
about
3 losses, don't they? Alabama.
they've got 2.
They have 2.
Okay.
But they're not competing for a conference championship, so they're not playing this week. So they can't improve their resume. They were talking about this during the Iron Bowl, where they were like, well, it's now about style points for Alabama. I'm like, any conversation about Alabama being in the college football playoff that gives the game away that this isn't a meritocracy. It 100% ruins the idea that this is actually about the 4 best teams. Because Alabama has thoroughly disqualified themselves from that conversation already with no chance to redeem it. It's over. They are clearly not a top 4 team in the country this year. They are DQ'd unless if they somehow got in, then that, again, it gives the game away. It's pure evidence that somebody on that committee or several people on that committee said, we want Alabama in because they're the biggest brand. We don't care if they're not qualified. So, again, they're out. They are out. Period.
I feel like Alabama would get in if all 4 of the top 4 lose somehow, right? Like, maybe a TCU and a USC would both fall out behind an Alabama, but that's not going to happen.
But how do you justify putting Alabama ahead of TCU, who doesn't have a loss yet and would only have one, presumably, if they lose this game, and then also ahead of Ohio State, whose only loss is to number 2 Michigan? Like, you can't justify it.
Well, I think Evan is saying
really.
that, like, if TCU and USC both lost, then both Ohio State and Alabama would jump up into the top 4. But I agree with your take on TCU because
that's my point.
TCU's loss would be against a top 10 team, whereas Alabama's lost 2 games, and yes, one of them was against the number 1 team in the nation, but the other one was
LSU,
who's now ranked in the top 15, but
they were
lost to
top 10 at
Tennessee.
the time.
yeah, they're not good.
Yeah, and they lost to Tennessee.
Oh, they didn't lose to Georgia. They didn't play Georgia.
Yeah, they lost
No.
to Tennessee. Now, Tennessee was ranked very highly, but then
Number 1.
they got got injured, so
Yeah.
that didn't help them finish. But they still were struggling even, so they kind of got exposed.
Still,
after
the LSU
Alabama.
loss is worse than a Kansas State loss would be for TCU.
Absolutely, and it would be it's number 2 for them, whereas that'll only be number 1 for TCU. And I
Right.
think TCU is going to make it a moot point anyway because I think they're going to win.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little about the college football conference championship games that are coming up this weekend. You've got the Pac-12 championship game between number 11 Utah and number 4 USC. That is going to be Friday at 8 p.m. on Fox, playing from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, the Death Star. Thoughts on does Utah really have a chance of winning this game?
I mean,
Yes.
they beat them the first time, so yeah, I think so. But with the way Caleb Williams is playing this year, especially lately, I personally think he's already locked up the Heisman Trophy, but he certainly can further solidify his case if he goes and wins that game and plays well. And I don't have reason to think he won't, so I think USC is probably going to win, but Utah certainly is capable of beating them. We've already seen it before. They're good, so this is probably the most exciting conference championship game among the Power 5, I would say.
It's the most relevant as well.
Yes.
Like, I feel like this is the only one that has realistic CFP relevance
Ramifications.
or
Yeah.
repercussions or
yeah.
something.
At noon on ABC from Jerry World in Texas, number 10 Kansas State against number 3 TCU. We all agree that TCU should stay in the college football playoff if they lose this game, but how likely is it that they lose this game?
I feel like TCU's kind of a wagon, man. Like I believe in them. Like I don't believe in them to necessarily beat Georgia, but they have earned their place as the 3rd best team in the country. Like I think that they're clearly that squad. Whereas Like, I think USC's standing is on shakier ground. Like, if we were being honest about how good USC is compared to the teams that are just behind them, like Ohio State and Alabama, I'd probably say that Ohio State and Alabama are probably better. But with TCU, I think that's where there's a cutoff. There's a tier to this. I think it's Georgia is all alone at the top, and then Michigan and TCU are sort of in their own class, and then 4 through 7, I would say, are on similar levels. And so I think that TCU clears by enough that they should win this game.
Number 14 LSU will play number 1 Georgia in the SEC championship. That game is at 4 o'clock on CBS from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Which one is that? Is that Atlanta?
Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that game?
Georgia's going to win.
I'm not going to watch it.
I'm not going to watch it.
How much would the spread have to be for you to take LSU with the points?
Maybe like 20.
20's not too bad. It's a lot, but it's not too bad.
I would probably take LSU plus. Yeah, 20's pretty good. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Eric likes it.
I wanted to come up with something different because I wanted to be interesting, but I was like, nah, I think Evan kind of nailed it. 20's pretty good. I'm actually going to look up the line right now to find out what that is.
I don't know what it is. I don't see it.
Eric is looking it up. Let's talk a little bit about, I actually don't remember the name of this conference, but number 22 UCF against number 18 Tulane at 4 o'clock on ABC.
This is the American Athletic Conference.
I was going to guess the
baby.
Sun Belt. So, okay, the American
that's not the
Athletic
Sun Belt.
Conference. I knew it wasn't the Sun Belt because the Sun Belt is like Western Kentucky, and isn't it? Like those kind of colleges.
I don't remember.
Anyway, UCF and Tulane, not a particularly interesting game if you ask me. Guys can correct me if I'm wrong.
It's more interesting than the game it's going up against, I'll tell you that. Also, this is a home game for Tulane.
Yeah, that conference, they play the higher seed, I guess, plays the game at home.
Yes. I think it was UCF. They beat Cincinnati last week or the week before. And like that earned them a spot in this game. And Cincinnati had won like 30-some home games in a row.
Cincinnati was good last year, weren't they? They were like ranked in the top 4.
They were in the
CFP.
CFP.
They were in the CFP. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew they were at least in the conversation late in the season. I couldn't remember for sure.
Yeah.
So I got the lines.
Oh, okay, so the line for LSU Georgia.
Georgia is favored by 17.5 points. So we would be, if we were betting men, and Evan's definitely not going to bet on Georgia because he hates them.
But you would be betting on Georgia at that line.
Yeah, I would bet Georgia on that line. Although I'd probably stay away from it just because 17 in the hook is tough. Like 17 is a pretty common margin of victory.
Sure.
And I would hate to lose in that circumstance. But just some other interesting lines. USC is favored by 2.5 points, which kind of backs up what we said, where we think that they're pretty vulnerable there. But to my surprise, TCU was only favored by 2.5 over Kansas State.
Interesting.
I would probably put money on TCU to cover that line. And then UCF is a 4-point underdog to Tulane.
Next game to talk about is Purdue against number 2 Michigan at 8 o'clock on Fox in Indianapolis. Before we find out what the line is, Evan, what would the line have to be for you to take Purdue in this one? Would 30 be enough?
I would need like 45.
Well, you ain't getting 45.
What is the line, Eric?
Michigan is only a 16.5-point favorite.
Jeez.
I was actually
so
surprised by that.
Evan is smashing the Michigan button on that one.
Yes.
I mean, Purdue should have lost to
Easy
Maryland.
money.
Like Purdue, everyone was at that game too, where Maryland got hosed by the officials.
Yeah.
Maryland did get hosed. I want to point out, it's worth mentioning, Iowa had an easy path to get boat raced in this game. All they had to do was last Friday beat Nebraska at home. And they lost.
Nebraska.
They lost to Nebraska at home.
We're done with the Big Ten.
Unbelievable.
Moving on.
Nebraska fired Scott Frost like in week 3. Did we talk about ACC?
My Hawkeyes.
No, not yet.
My sort of Hawkeyes. And finally, the ACC, number 9 Clemson against number 23 North Carolina. That will be an 8 o'clock game on ABC from Charlotte. This could be an interesting game, but what is the line right here? I would imagine it's probably Clemson like -2.5.
Clemson's favored by 7.5 points.
Really? Wow.
I think I would lay, or I would.
I'd take the
I would
points,
take the points, yeah.
and go with North Carolina on that line for sure.
I wonder if some of these lines, like particularly the Purdue-Michigan line, I wonder if they're considering that somewhat of a home game for Purdue because Indianapolis,
Games in Indiana.
Versus Ann Arbor, it's a little bit. But at the same time, if you're a Purdue Boilermaker fan, are you really going to shell out a ton of money to go to this game?
If you're a Michigan fan, are you not going to go down to Indianapolis to see this game?
Just go see you win the Big Ten and lock up a 12-0 season. And
it's not like Indianapolis is that far of a drive.
It's not
from Ann
super
Arbor.
far, but it's clearly more in Purdue's backyard. But I'm just saying it's a consideration. And where's the SEC championship game being played?
Atlanta.
Yeah, so that's Georgia's backyard too. So that could be a legitimate factor because Georgia fans are going to turn up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean the TCU Kansas State game. TCU's in Fort Worth, right? Like that's
right next door
in the Metroplex or whatever.
Yes.
As a fan of a team that was in one of these conference championship games and had no chance to win, it's still fun to go, right?
But y'all hung in there that year, right?
Yeah.
But your triple option.
Yeah, and also in 2012 when I think we were 5 and 7 or something going into the game, or 6 and 6.
You were 5 and 7 or 6 and 6, and you got to go to a conference championship game.
Yes, because Miami had a postseason ban.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was the Nevin Shapiro stuff or whatever his name was.
Yeah. Had a great time. So these games are fun. Purdue and LSU and Kansas, well, maybe Kansas State. Thanks for coming out, but it's nothing. I will say though, I think Clemson is better than North Carolina. North Carolina lost to Georgia Tech, which is less than ideal.
Yeah, that's an indictment.
Well, that did happen.
They were overrated.
Yeah, but Clemson, I don't know. Clemson has never they haven't struck me as a good team pretty much all year.
That's true.
They were piddling along, pretending like they were going to make the college football playoff for a while, and it was really annoying. And then eventually they got exposed. So
Yeah, I mean they lost last week. Well, so did North Carolina. So
I mean, I would say which loss is worse? You to South Carolina or to y'all?
Oh, definitely losing to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I agree.
We have no squad, right? There's no talent on that team.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler's there for South Carolina.
Yeah.
Well, that game will be pretty much right in between the two schools in Charlotte, right on the border, which is
where the Carolinas come together.
Where the
Carolinas come together.
Cara wins. All right, so we'll talk some about those conference championship games next week after they've been played. Before we move on to professional football, just a quick aside, staying in the college realm, with the Maryland Terrapins, who are 7-0 on the hardwood. They are ranked number 22, and this Friday they are hosting number 16 Illinois, and Eric will, I'm sure, be at that game and being super loud and screaming at the Illinois coach.
I'll let my buddy do that. I'm just going to enjoy the game.
Is he going to keep it PG?
Well, my mother's going to be there, so he better.
Is he going to keep it PG, though?
Right? That's still a very legitimate question, if you ask
my
me.
My mother is going to be there, so for his sake, he better. Or else he might not be coming back.
I mean, I'd be mortified if I was rude to my own mother, but even worse, being rude in front of someone else's mother.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Especially because my mother's the reason he has access to the tickets at the cost that they are. Like, we get a nice discount on that because my parents are members of the Terrapin Club. So, that's part of the deal. But I do remember that 3 years ago, Maryland hosted Illinois, and that was the worst display of fan behavior from...
Oh, was that game?
That was that game. Yeah, it was... It was almost 3 years ago to the day. Like, it's probably maybe a week or so of separation. But, yeah, I'm just like, oh, boy. But this time my parents are in town. They were not in town for that one. And we almost lost the tickets. Like, legitimately, we almost lost.
That's why they're not going out of town this time. Like, we
Yeah,
can't do this
keep,
anymore.
Keep our eye on this guy. But anyway, yeah, the Terps are 7-0. They beat the crap out of Louisville in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, which on paper sounded like it would be a big win because Louisville usually has pretty good teams. Louisville sucks this year. They're 0-7. They lost all their cupcake games. Like, how do you lose the games that you pay people to come play you for? But, they did it. And, so Maryland whooped their asses. They're ranked 22nd in the country. I'm excited about this team. This has been fun. Like, I watched some other stuff. Like, I watched some NBA after that game, and I was just still sitting there like, I don't care about any of this stuff. I'm just happy Maryland won. I'm so excited. We haven't had, like, a really cool, fun to root for basketball team in a while. So, good to see him back. I think Scott Van Pelt should be in the barn, and maybe we'll go to Bentley's afterwards.
Well, maybe the Terps will be good enough this year that they can play Duke next year in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, because that will likely be the last opportunity that could ever happen, because apparently the ACC Big Ten Challenge is being discontinued after next year.
I thought it was after this year.
I thought it was after this.
Oh, is it?
I thought this was the last one. Yeah.
I thought that they had one more year on it, but maybe that's not the case.
So this is a critical win for the Terps because this got them back to 500 in the challenge. Because I think that when on the ACC side, they were cooking because, Gary was coaching the team. And then under Turgeon, they were like 1-7 in the Big Ten. Yeah, this is only our second win representing the Big Ten. In the challenge. I don't remember because Turgeon coached in the ACC for the first 3 years he was around.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I don't remember how the Terps did those years.
I don't think.
Actually, I think the first year we played Illinois, but we didn't have a chance. Like they
that was one of those like really good Illinois teams.
And Myers Leonard on that team. Yeah.
All right. Happy to see the Terps playing really well, and hopefully they can keep it up. Mm-hmm. Maybe get a 1 seed in the tournament this year.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I am still of the opinion if they make the tournament this year, I'll be thrilled. I mean, it's a transition year. It's a brand new coach.
They're ranked 22nd.
I know, but
that should be a lock.
That's not how
that should be a top 6 seed.
They've been ranked before and not made the tournament.
Yes, they've fallen out very quickly. They were ranked at the start of last year, and the coach didn't even make it to New Year's Day. So, yeah, tell me about that.
That's true. All right, let's talk some NFL. We'll start, as we usually do, with Evan's Ravens, who were a lock to beat Jacksonville. What was it, -3.5?
Yes.
It was an absolute lock.
Uh-huh.
It was disrespectful.
The lock of the century.
It was disrespectful.
It was disrespectful for anybody to insinuate that the Ravens would only beat the Jaguars by like 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Just
and then the game started.
Yeah, and then the game started. And Evan, what happened?
I guess the Ravens were distracted by Jackson DeVille in the thong or whatever. Whatever was going on with that. Let's see. Ravens couldn't catch the ball. They couldn't block. They couldn't tackle. Just an unmitigated disaster.
Absolutely. Which
I honestly should have seen coming. Like, every time we go down to Jacksonville, we can't figure out how to score touchdowns. And, we just – it's always a game that shouldn't be close, but it is. So this time, Ravens once again had a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter and just gave it all up. The Jags just marched right down the field on this Ravens defense twice. It wasn't like we turned the ball over or anything like that. No, they're just 75 yards in crunch time, clock ticking down, and the defense can't close. I take issue with Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator. Why aren't you playing more man coverage in critical situations? You have Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey, who are two of the best man corners in the league, and you're like, you know what? We'll just have these guys stand in the middle of nowhere and then go chase down the guy when he catches the ball for a first down. It's just driving me crazy. Let's see. Greg Roman might have worn out his welcome for me. Apparently there are whispers that he might be hired as the Stanford head football coach. Congrats to him, I guess. Wishing you all the best at Stanford. This game. I've been commiserating with a fellow Ravens fan and coaster enthusiast on Instagram all week. Because I just, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I think last week we did this show on Tuesday because you
were traveling.
Yeah, I was me traveling, and getting ready to head down to or up to Connecticut for Thanksgiving, and we all picked the Ravens with that line.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that by the end of the week, particularly after Sean decided to get all disrespected by a particular analyst picking the Ravens to only win by 3. The unmitigated gall of that analyst to only pick the Ravens to win by 3. I don't know if Eric had the same reaction I did, but I was like, all right, now I kind of wish that I had taken Jacksonville because I just see where this is going. Well, I wish I had taken Jacksonville with the points.
I clearly had similar thoughts because I argued with Sean about it
immediately.
At which point
like literally half an hour after you said that you need to stop arguing with Sean about football.
Yeah, well, I think that was the first.
Or was that the thing?
And then there was something else like 8 hours later. But yeah, like the thing that tipped me off is like Sean sent that. Like, you had the whole collection of picks from that guy. I don't even know who it was. We should probably, find out. Give him a shout-out, a proper shout-out. Because he didn't actually predict the game right. Like, he picked the Ravens to win by 3.
He did.
But, but the first thing I noticed was, Sean sent the screenshot of it, posted something after that, like, excuse me, or something along those lines. They clearly offended. And I was like, the first thing I noticed was, this was on Friday or Saturday, and so the Thanksgiving games had already been played, and I couldn't help but notice that the dude made pretty good picks for the Thanksgiving picks. And I was like, okay, those look pretty accurate, so I don't know what Sean's mad about here. And I saw 23-20. I was like, it's got to be about the Ravens because Sean's a Ravens fan.
I don't recognize him.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, what's the problem? They're only a 3.5-point favorite. A 3-point margin that's as reasonable as it gets. Yeah. Like, the pick was almost insultingly safe. Like, that's the type of pick that a computer would spit out to say, hey, over-under on the game is this. This team's favored by 3.5. We'll have them win by 3. Right? Like, Jacksonville scores 20 a game. Ravens give up about 20 a game. We'll say they score 20 points. And then the Ravens are 3 points better, so they win by 3. Like, I could have made that up even if I knew nothing about the teams themselves and just was looking at numbers. And I was just like, I don't understand why is Sean so worked up about this? And then the game played out, and I was like, this is going kind of exactly how I thought it would. Like, I still thought the Ravens would win. I didn't think they would give up the game-winning touchdown late. But
much less the game-winning 2-point conversion.
Yeah, but like the thing is, if they get that stop and they win 27-20 instead of 23-20, which was the predicted score, is that really that much better? No, I'd say that's a pretty damn good pick.
Yeah.
Whereas saying, oh, we're going to blow them out. I'm like, the Ravens haven't blown anybody out all year, man. They blow games all the time.
Every week, Sean comes out of the Ravens game like, oh my God, this team is so frustrating. We can't beat anybody. Like, we can't blow anybody out. Like, we're not throwing, Lamar's not throwing the ball enough. And then the next week, it's like he has amnesia. He's like, we should absolutely throttle this team.
Yeah. Well,
but the thing is, we should absolutely throttle this team, and we don't.
But you consistently don't, so you can't get mad when experts don't pick you guys to throttle teams.
The part I'm mad about is at the coaching level, right? If the whole is less than the sum of the parts, there's so much talent on this Ravens team, and they don't win. What is the problem right now?
Maybe
I don't know what it
is not as talented as you think it is.
I mean, I guess.
Well, who do you think is not good that is touted to be good?
You're asking me?
I'm asking Corey because Corey's the one that proffered the suggestion that maybe they're overrated.
Proffered.
I mean, Lamar has not been good since week 2. He's been good. He's been fine. He's been fine. But he is not we were looking at him as being the MVP this year potentially.
I picked him to win MVP.
Eric
and
picked
I was
him
looking
to be
like a
MVP.
genius after week 3. And then,
after those first couple weeks, absolutely. It looked like locked and loaded. Lamar's going to be the MVP. He rolled through those first 2 games, chewed up those defenses and spitted them out.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been just a guy since then. Like, literally, he's been just a guy.
And to be fair,
He's been starting caliber, but that's about as high a praise you're going to get from me on Lamar since week 2.
To be fair to Lamar, he played very well down the stretch of that game. He got no help. Balls being
Receivers
dropped.
can't catch the ball.
They're dropping touchdowns. It was. I think the bigger issue with the Ravens is the fact that they lack a really reliable wide receiver. Like it's been the issue for them for a long time. And
Devin Duvernay was supposed to come in and kind of be that guy in the first couple weeks of the season. He looked like he was going to be, and he's done nothing since. I mean, he had a couple of really big plays, like catches down the field. He looked like the guy who could stretch the defense. Rashad Bateman comes in. He's supposed to be that guy.
I thought he was going to be good.
He was looking good, but then he got hurt, and he hasn't done a whole lot. Mark Andrews has been an absolute no-show the last few weeks.
Well, if he could catch the ball, then he would show up.
I mean, the thing is,
hit him right in the hands in the back end zone. He's like, catch it. Like, unbelievable right now. So,
I don't understand why the Ravens won't follow a pretty consistent model for success for young quarterbacks. I mean, we've seen it in the last couple of years. We've seen it going into this year. Go get your young quarterback a blue chip weapon to throw the ball to. Jalen Hurts got A.J. Brown. What happened? They look great. They're going to go to the playoffs. Or they might even be the number 1 seed. He looks like they look like a legit. He looks like a franchise quarterback now. When there were questions about that.
Granted, much to my chagrin, A.J. Brown has not done a whole lot the last 3 weeks.
I'm not talking about your fantasy team. I'm talking about how he's impacted the team overall. And the last couple of weeks, he's had some fumbleitis, but he's still a really good football player.
Yeah, he is.
And then you've also got Josh Allen. He wasn't that great until he got Stephon Diggs, and now he's Josh Allen.
Tua Tagovailoa. You know, he has Jalen Waddle last year, but he doesn't have the trust of his coaching staff. Now he's got a coach that seems to really like him and trust him. Sorry, Brian Flores, but it's starting to look like maybe you were wrong on that one.
Yeah, and then they got
Tyreek Hill, and now Tua is looking like he could be he's the only guy that I would put up against Mahomes as maybe being the MVP this year.
Joe Burrow, they got Jamar Chase. They got him in the draft. There's only one case in recent history where a team had a young quarterback and went out and paired him with a very good wide receiver, like a Pro Bowl level player that was established in the league. The only time it didn't work was Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker Mayfield. And that's because Baker is buns. It is entirely his fault. Like, he's just not that good. Lamar is a lot better than Baker Mayfield. I would trust him to be able to find a way to make use of. Tyreek Hill was on the trade market, right? So is A.J. Brown. Why is every other team able to go make that move, to go get that guy? Hell, they could have drafted Chris Olave.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Olave, despite the fact that the Saints suck, he's been a difference maker.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine
him in an actually good offense with a real quarterback. He'd be great.
He's the only reason why I can maybe sort of understand why PFF has Andy Dalton ranked so highly.
PFF just doesn't know what they're talking about.
I agree with you.
That's
but
moronic.
Chris Olave definitely makes Andy Dalton look better than he is.
Yeah, he would make everybody look better because he's a good player. I mean, why can't the Ravens go get somebody? And I'm not talking about a tight end. Okay, like Mark Andrews is good. He's one of the better tight ends in the league, but
he catches the ball.
Yeah, when he catches the ball. But the thing is, even when he catches the ball, does anybody watch Mark Andrews and think, "Oh yeah, that guy is as talented as Travis Kelce"? No, absolutely not. Is he even as talented as George Kittle when they let him run routes? I'd say no. He's definitely
George Kittle is superhuman, right? He's an alien or something.
Yes. I'm not sold that he certainly was not more talented than like a prime Rob Gronkowski.
Oh no.
Well, I mean, who's better than Rob Gronkowski?
We're still not saying that Travis Kelce is better than Rob Gronkowski.
Absolutely
so
not.
how are we going to say that Mark Andrews is as good as him when we're saying that he's clearly worse than Travis Kelce?
Like, my point is, like, for your best weapon to be a tight end, that tight end has to be generationally talented, like Rob Gronkowski. Like Tony Gonzalez, like Travis Kelce.
Yes.
And Mark Andrews, very good player. I like him a lot. He's not at that level. So you need to go find another weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Obviously, Deshaun Jackson's not that guy, right?
Deshaun Jackson caught passes from Donovan McNabb. Like, come on, man. Give me a break. Like, he actually caught passes. They didn't just go in the dirt back then.
All right, so the Ravens are playing the Broncos this week. We'll get to that game pick a little bit later, but in the run-up, Lamar Jackson left practice today with a quad injury. So I don't know how close you've been following that news, Evan, but anything to be severely concerned about?
I'm always severely concerned when Lamar doesn't practice. Always. So, and I'm always severely concerned when anybody on the Ravens is injured because if it
Y'all
comes
have no
out
depth.
yeah, well, there's no depth, but also if it comes out that somebody's injured, that means they're really injured. Because like they hide injuries so much. Like if the press asks Harbaugh about somebody being injured, they're like, oh, we have to go ask the doctor. But the doctor doesn't talk to the media every day like the coach does.
Yeah, but they still have to submit like a report of like who was a full participant, who was a limited participant in practice.
I mean, yeah, but that doesn't tell you. That's not as descriptive as I would like for it to be.
Sure, but it's about as descriptive as most teams give you. It's not just a Ravens thing there.
Okay. Well, I mean, the Ravens are the only team I follow that closely. I mean, I've got my phone knows when I type in Ravens in Google, it's Ravens injury report. Like, yeah, that's what I'm looking for again.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about some of our takeaways from Week 12. We only have one on our list, but I'm sure that we have some other things we're going to want to discuss from Week 12. But let's start with Mike White.
White Mike,
starting quarterback now of the New York Jets, who apparently teammates love, great player to have in the locker room, and supposedly that starting job in New York is his until he does something to change it, not until Zach Wilson does something to take it away from him. It is Mike White's until Mike White screws himself over and loses it, which I think is deserved. He's looked very good in the limited action we've seen him on the field. He was excellent this past week.
I mean, you got to keep in mind the Jets are trying to win a playoff spot. Like, they don't suck.
Might win the division.
Yeah, the Jets are not suck right now. They're 7-4.
Yeah, so they are not really in position, and I respect this about them. There are so many times where teams are winning when they don't necessarily think they should be, and they've got a quarterback that they think is the future, like Zach Wilson is supposed to be. He's only in his second year. And they're just like, okay, but we got to go where Zach Wilson takes us. Now, the Jets are like, no, we got a chance to do something here. We haven't made the playoffs since 2010. You know, we need to get off the schneid here and make a push for a playoff spot. We need to put our team in the best position to win now, because there's no telling if Zach Wilson's actually going to be good. In fact, the evidence suggests otherwise.
I think he's bad.
Like, he looks like a bust. Is it too early to say he's a bust? Maybe. But it's not too early to suggest he might be a bust. And therefore, you're going to look awfully dumb if you throw away a season that your team could have made the playoffs and actually got some juice back into your fan base, and you throw that away to try to develop a guy who looks like he's just going to suck forever. Like, that's just not where you want to be, especially as a head coach. Like, the head coach's priority is to win. Period. End of story. Like, the head coach's job is not to say, well, gee, I really want to get this guy potentially developed, so I'm willing to take someone else. No, Robert Saleh knows if they lose, he gets fired. That's the game. He can't afford to lose, so he's going to put himself in the best position to win, and the franchise needs to be behind him in that regard. And it's good to see that they are, because somebody could call down to Robert Saleh on practice days or whatever and said, yeah, look, I get what you're trying to do, but Zach Wilson needs to start. But they're not doing that. They're getting out of the way because they understand it's more important for the team to win, because they've got a damn good roster.
Yeah.
And is going to continue to improve as the years go on. There's no reason for them to sit there and say, well, we got to throw it all away for Zach Wilson. What happens? Just go pick another quarterback.
Yeah. Get the players you have right now some playoff experience. Are they going to win a Super Bowl this year? Absolutely not. But they're going to be competitive in the playoffs, and it's going to be good experience for these young players. It's been a great experience for Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson had a great game this past week in catching balls from Mike White.
Like, football, to me, more so than a lot of other sports, you gotta learn how to win, right? Like it's more than just like basketball. There's 100 possessions a game, and people mess up all the time. You know, the talent's gonna win out eventually there, and the experience is gonna win out regardless of whether you spent your time coming up as a loser or a winner. In football, it's about the will to win. It is as physically demanding of a sport as we have in America, and to instill the idea that it's okay to accept losing when you could have been better, that's not going to cut it.
No.
Like you just don't see teams come back from that. Like you see coaches get fired because they lost the locker room. We hear that all the time. They didn't have the winning culture established. That's the entire job of the head coach, is to do that.
Yep.
Like we can make fun of the dumb coaches all the time for doing stupid stuff, but it's the stupid stuff that suggests they're not serious about winning that's what gets them fired. And the players have to have the same attitudes.
Yeah. What do you guys think about the Thanksgiving games? How much did
so
you guys
long ago.
watch? I know it does feel so long ago.
Well, I was dealing with the Boomer fam, so I watched pretty much the entire Bills-Lions game, which was very exciting. So I caught most of that one. And it was, like I said, very exciting. We've come to kind of expect that a little bit from the Lions, where
they're scrappy. They keep things close. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a huge game.
Yeah, they play hard, they play well, and they lose. That's usually how it goes for them. And we've also seen the Bills loaf around quite a bit. They blew the game against the Vikings. They should have beaten the Jets, and they're not winning the Super Bowl anymore. You know, they should have beat the Dolphins as well. And so that game kind of had an expected outcome. I think we might have all been on the Bills, but
we all took the Lions
we were all
because
Lions,
it was
and they
Bills
covered.
minus 9.5.
Yeah, and we were like, yeah, that's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And we were right.
Yes, we were. And I felt really good about that. I was like, we're off to a good start this week after going like 4-10 or something. I was like, yes, we got a nice solid win here. But I didn't catch much of the Giants-Cowboys game.
So I saw more of that one. I caught the first half of the Bills-Lions game. I was in the car. Rashana was driving, so I got the free trial of NFL Plus on my phone, so I could watch that game. And then tuned in we got to our destination, and they changed the channel away from football during the second half. I was like, really? But it was whatever. It was fun. It was a fun time. And then we went to Rashana's godparents' house, and her godsister's husband is a huge Cowboys fan, so of course they had that game on there. We watched all of that game there. Went back to the hotel, turned on the Patriots-Vikings game, and I think I fell asleep around halftime, so I missed the second half. But it was a good football day. You know, Thanksgiving is always fun.
Yeah, pretty rough beat for those of us that picked the Cowboys to cover that line.
Yes.
Oh no.
It was a 9-point spread, and the Cowboys were up 15.
Yeah.
And they had a relatively routine field goal to push it to 18, and the dude shanked
Brett
it.
Maher missed it.
Yep. Dude shanks the kick, and then the Giants go down the field and score in like the last 4 seconds. And they score the backdoor cover, just sneak out a little 8-point loss, and I was just like, oh my god, devastating,
Absolutely.
devastating. I'm glad I didn't actually put money on that, because that would have I might have thrown something to the television.
And then Vikings beat their
Patriots.
3-point spread against the Patriots, which
How
I
about-
was not expecting.
How about primetime Kirk Cousins, man?
Yes. Kirk
Apparently.
Cousins showed up.
Yeah, he did.
I told y'all he would. No, I didn't. I didn't think he would. But
Kirk Cousins was the best quarterback of Week 12, according to Football Outsiders.
well, the Patriots
What?
defense is
Yeah.
pretty highly ranked.
Yeah, that
so-
was the big thing was the
Adjustments.
defensive adjustments to the DYAR. So, that's the main thing that gave Kirk Cousins that edge.
Apparently, a bunch of people won a lot of money betting the prop that Kirk Cousins would throw an interception, and like almost immediately just throws it right to the Patriots guy.
Yep.
other than
And
that,
yet
he was
he
very
still
good.
was the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
Still had a great game.
Yeah. Any other games from this past week that we want to talk about?
I would like to mention clean old-fashioned hate, not because Georgia Tech won, but because Georgia Tech covered and won your boy a couple dollars.
Nice.
Oh,
Define a
we're
couple
going back
dollars.
to college football?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Was a couple dollars literally like $2?
I think it was like 4.
Okay, so you
that was a few dollars.
So you bet like 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also picked the Ravens to cover. They didn't.
So
I
you
picked the
lost.
So
Titans
you lost
to win.
$1.
They didn't.
The
I won on the Eagles. Plus
Titans
or
played
minus
the Panthers, or not the Panthers, the Bengals.
Bengals.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Oh, that game! You've got to be kidding me with the Titans right now. Okay, they get a stop on 4th down with like a minute left in the game, and it's 20-16, and the Bengals are going to kick a field goal to go up by 7, and the Titans were going to get the ball back to get a chance to score the game-tying touchdown, but during the field goal, a Titans guy lines up over the center, which is a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Automatic 1st down, Bengals, and they just kneel down, and the game's over.
Well, let's give my boy Joey B some credit, though, man. Like, he went out there with no starting running back.
No Jamar Chase.
No Jamar Chase. A still pretty poor offensive line. And, oh, by the way, he's been dealing with this his entire career. Zach Taylor as a head coach. And he went out there against a pretty damn good defense, and he got her done. I mean, the dude's got ice water in his veins. He's the real deal.
I thought that was easy money. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Speaking of the Bengals and Jamar Chase, big question right now is, will Jamar Chase play this week? Supposedly, he could have played last week, but told Zach Taylor, he wanted to think more long-term. He held himself out of that game, apparently. And yet, even today, he was like a limited participant in practice. So the question is he going to be good to go this week when the Bengals host the Chiefs? I mean, that's a big game. Kind of need your star wide receiver for that game, especially considering Tyler Boyd, who for basically is, the better part of the last few years, when either Jamar Chase or T. Higgins is inactive, Tyler Boyd just goes ham. This year, complete opposite. He's better when both of them are on the field. He completely disappears. He's completely disappeared the last few weeks with Jamar Chase out. So this is a really big game for them to get Jamar Chase back. But how comfortable is he going to be running on that leg? Apparently, he hyperextended his leg a few weeks ago and then aggravated it the following week. That? And so it's a hip injury, but it was from a hyperextension.
How do I hyperextend your hip? Where does it go? Your hip goes every direction.
I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy. I'm not a medical doctor. I am not an athletic trainer.
Oh, where does it go?
Yeah, I don't know.
Ooh.
So we'll see what happens with Jamar Chase, but that's going to be a storyline to keep an eye on as we head into Week 13. Aaron Donald is going to be out this week. It's going to be the first time in his career that he misses a game due to injury. And only the 3rd game in his career that he's going to miss, period. He missed 1 game at the start of his season because he ended a holdout literally the day before their season opener. And then at the end of that season, Sean McVay rested basically all the starters. But aside from those 2 games, Aaron Donald's never missed an NFL game in his career until this week. So that's going to be a big loss for the Rams, who at this point I think are sunk. Like it's completely done
already.
At this point. Like they were already pretty sunk. I think now we can go ahead and put a pin in it. Deshaun Watson makes his return this week for the Browns.
Couldn't be less excited.
I don't care
at
all.
Yeah. So I guess the last thing to talk about, I guess still kind of going back to Week 12, the Colts. Monday Night Football.
I went to bed.
Jeff Saturday apparently, learned so much from Madden that helps him get that first win.
Jeff Big Saturday.
Yeah, but usually people who play a lot of Madden learn clock management. It's like one of the few things that you definitely learn as a Madden player. And the Colts, what was that on Monday night?
Well, the wild thing is that people are actually trying to defend what they were doing, including Jeff Saturday, where they were suggesting that the plan was to run the clock down as much as possible so that they could score and not let the Steelers have a chance to answer in regulation. And I'm like, who do you think's on the other side there? It's not Patrick Mahomes. It's not Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, somebody that you could reliably count on to pull miracles out of their asses. This is Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you're worried about that? You're worried about leaving 10 seconds too long on the clock? Like, that can't be real. Like, that's just total nonsense. So Ryan gets sacked on first down with like 1:35 on the clock.
Where were they on the field?
Around like the 35, 40, something like that.
They're 35?
No,
the
Steelers 35. They
were on
they
the
were
plus 35.
Yes.
Yeah, they were on
Down
the plus side of the
6,
field.
7?
Down 7, and Ryan gets sacked on second down.
Of course he does.
Or first down, I'm sorry. They lose 7 yards, but they got all 3 timeouts. They opt not to use one. And instead of, Curry way downtown, bang, bang, oh, what a shot from Curry, this was a different circumstance where the clock stayed ticking. And I honestly didn't mind them not calling that timeout because I'm like, they had plenty of time.
Yeah.
The ball, the next snap happened with 55 seconds left. And again, they're at plus territory around the 42.
Yeah.
So Ryan takes off and scrambles, and
he runs in slow motion.
And then he also wimps out because it looks like he could have just put his head down and dove forward and picked up the first down, but he kind of was like, I don't want to get hit. So he slowed.
Business decision.
Yeah, it took very much a business decision. Got little choppy feet going on, and he ends up falling down 3 yards short of the sticks. Okay, it's 3rd and 3. You got most of the yardage back, and you're still in a position to pick up a first down. You're at the 26.
You have 2 more downs.
Yeah. And the Colts still don't call a timeout.
What?
They let another 30 seconds or so tick off the clock.
Oh,
So
my God.
now we're talking less than 20 seconds left.
This is Nat Hackett PI land.
Yes, and so now it's 3rd and 3. And because by the way, they know huddled. So it's not like they even huddled up and said, okay, here's what play we're going to run. They got up there, wasted a whole bunch of time, and then had this half-baked 3rd and 3 play where Ryan just turns around and hands it to Jonathan Taylor, who gets tackled immediately and makes it 4th and 3. And now there's 25 seconds left in the game.
Do they call timeout?
Yes, they did. They called timeout to set up 4th down. And then I had so many dumbasses on Twitter. So they run the 4th down play. It doesn't work. It gets broken up, falls incomplete. So the Steelers win the game that way. And so everybody, or most people, are razzing the Colts for the terrible clock management. But people are like, but they didn't run out of time. That wasn't the issue. I'm like, yeah, because they lost before they could run out of time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you call a timeout so that you can draw up a better play.
And you can actually have time. It's like, oh yeah, if they picked it up on 4th and 3, then what happens?
15
There's
seconds.
15 seconds left and you're not even in the red zone.
Yeah, they would have run out of time.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. And eventually, Jeff Saturday did say he wishes he had taken a timeout earlier.
Again, at least after the scramble, you should have called a timeout.
Yes, exactly. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is, you're losing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like you're losing in a situation where you can take the lead here, and so you want to make sure that you protect that lead because it's something that you could potentially you don't want to have it and then lose it. You need to get a touchdown just to send it to overtime. Mm-hmm. You got to score when you can. Yeah. I don't care how early it is. You got to score, and then let your defense do what it's going to do. Even when you're down by 4 and you're trying to get a touchdown to take the lead, you score when you can. Mm-hmm. And if your defense can't stop the other guy, I don't care if you're the Bills playing against Patrick Mahomes. If your defense can't stop the other guy after you take the lead, your team didn't deserve to win. Your team didn't deserve to win. The correct outcome ultimately won out. But you got to score when you can. Now, the difference is that when you're the Bills, you have a good enough offense that you figure that you can sort of control the clock a little bit more because you've got the talent to still, you feel like you can score whenever you want to score. You're the Colts. You have Matt Ryan. You can't just choose when you're going to score. You're not good enough to do that.
I mean, no team honestly really is. Even the best teams.
Not even the best teams are actually good enough to do that, but you can at least feel like you're that good.
Yeah.
You can at least have some righteous confidence.
Like, if you want to sit there and play the game of let's burn some clock, you better be within 20 yards of the goal line, man. You've got to be close. Like, if it's like, okay, well, we've got 3 plays to get this in and there's 30 seconds left, so we don't mind if it ticks down to 15 seconds because we got time for it. When you're at the 25-yard line, you don't know what the next results of the plays are going to be. Like, it's like at that point, you're risking cutting yourself short. Like, it's like, oh, I'm at the 25-yard line. I only have time to run 4 more plays till the end of the game. That's a lot of work you have to do to get a touchdown. And what happens if you get tackled short? Now you've got 3 plays. It's like,
Matt Ryan gets sacked.
It's like, dude, you could have had 3 more plays if you needed it. And if you got close enough, if you got like within the 5 or 10 yards and been like, okay, now we don't have the urgency to call a timeout because we know we have a limited number of plays anyway to get this done.
Yep.
Here it's like, no. And if you're worried about another thing, it's like worrying about, oh, what happens when they get the ball back? I'm like, dude, the game's tied. There's 30 seconds left on the clock. Do you really think the other team's going to press their luck and try to like be super aggressive and have Kenny Pickett taking 7-step drops where he could potentially get strip sacked and turn the game around? No, they're going to be like, okay, we'll give something a shot, but if it doesn't work out, we'll just gladly go to overtime. Like, when you're losing, yeah, you have the urgency, you got to go. But when it's tied, no, they're not going to do that. Like, there's no way Mike Tomlin's going to be like, oh, we got Kenny Pickett. We got to go for it right now. We can't risk Kenny Pickett not getting the ball in overtime. Kenny Pickett's our best player. No.
Yeah,
That's
we're not talking
works.
about like leaving them 2 minutes in like a full 2-minute drill. We're talking about leaving them 30 seconds.
Even if you leave them 2 minutes, who cares? You got to tie the game.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, just horrendous clock management by Jeff Saturday and the Colts on Monday night. And Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan deserves some blame there,
that's
too.
the thing.
Matt Ryan
Absolutely.
is a veteran quarterback. He has been there, done that. He's been in a Super Bowl for crying out loud. And
done
he
the
doesn't
same
know
thing.
better than to not call a timeout.
Yeah, he could have just been like, one of
He
these.
also took a sack.
So, like, I
There-
definitely
nobody
don't mean
can
to,
see
like,
it.
put all of this on Jeff Saturday because you have what should be a coach on the field. Like,
a veteran
if
quarterback.
Matt Ryan can't be a coach on the field with as much experience as he has, what would you say you do here?
He pays his accountant. That's what he does.
We needed the Mannings so we could see how many times Peyton would signal timeout this week.
75 times.
Unfortunately, they were off for 3 straight weeks. They'll be
Yes,
back
they're
this week.
finally back this weekend, so that'll be nice. All right. Before we move to our picks, just a quick check-in with fantasy football. All 3 of us are still alive. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Eric just got eliminated this week from the playoff
I
race.
can't believe it took this long.
Yeah, somehow.
Also,
Yeah.
I really don't want Corey to win the Pro Bowl because his Sacco punishment idea sounds awful.
What is it?
It's not super awful, but it doesn't sound like something I
So
want to do.
if I play in the Pro Bowl and I win it and I get to pick the Sacco punishment, my plan is to make the Sacco winner write the Week 1 recap next season.
Oh. That's not that much of a punishment.
I don't want to do that.
Eric doesn't want to do that.
No, that sounds terrible.
You could do that in like a half hour
That's true. It's not as
for
time
free.
Yeah, that's true. It's not sitting in a Waffle House for as long as it takes me to eat, as many waffles plus 24 hours. It's like, yeah.
But you also have to like praise me in the write-up.
Well, you didn't mention that. Yeah, Corey's team scored 45 points this week. Man, what a great showing. A really solid effort.
Lost 180 to 45, but he's still number 1 in the power rankings after week 1.
So I beat Sean this week to get back into a tie with him for the best record in the league. Retook the number 1 power ranking this week, and I can lock up my division if I beat William Battle this coming week. Evan is in a little bit of a bind. He's 2 games out of his division. He's 6-6, so he's also a game out of the wild card. But we've got our 3-week division round robin coming up, so still plenty of time for Evan to try and do something with his, what would you call it, an ambulance of a team? Like everybody's hurt.
MASH unit.
Yeah, it's the MASH unit.
You've got Cooper Kupp on your IR. You've got Dallas Goedert on your IR. You've got Mike Williams on and off of your IR.
Well, yeah, Mike Williams.
I mean, he's permanently on and off the IR,
Yeah.
right? Like that's Mike
that's where he
Williams' deal.
lives.
Oh my God!
In that
Yeah,
liminal space between the IR and the active roster.
yeah, just sort of transitioning back and forth, or in a limbo, not fully neither one or the other. Yeah, the few good players I had on my team all got hurt like all in the same week.
Yes, they did.
Just in like 2 days, just
Oof.
done. So yeah, hopefully, I don't think Cooper Kupp's gonna come back. Like, why would he come back to this Rams team?
Yeah, no, the Rams are done. They're not going to risk, aggravating that injury, making it a worse injury, just to have him back for a couple regular season games. Absolutely not. So he's done.
Goddard might be done too, because the Eagles are running away with the NFC, right? Like they might be like, yeah, well, all we got to do is beat Washington once, and then we can lock up the 1 seat. I think
you just mean like for the regular season?
For the regular season.
Yeah,
like
no, I agree that very well could be the case. I mean, I think it all depends on whether they are locked to win, like to take the first round bye. Because keep in mind the Vikings are also in that mix, and we all agree that the Vikings
beat
are
the
sort
Vikings,
of
though.
fake good, but still, you don't want to wind up in a situation where you finish a game behind them, right? You got to at least tie them. So depending on what that situation is going to the final few weeks, if Goddard is healthy and he's eligible to be activated, they might find that they need to do that. So we'll see what happens with him. In any case, this is probably the best. This might be the best season I've ever had. It's certainly my best since 2014. I don't count 2015 because I totally lucked my way into that championship.
Well, I still have the belt now.
Yes, you do.
My team doesn't look like
for
it,
a few more weeks at least. All right. So this past week, Eric won our contest. The picks went 8-7-1. I went 7-8-1. Evan went 6-9-1. Congratulations to Sean Kennedy and Andrew Perez, who tied for the fan contest win with 7 points apiece. On the season, I'm still leading with 89 points, but Eric pulled 1 point closer with 86, and Evan is now in third place with 85. The first time I think all season that Evan has been in third place in our contest. James Daly continues to lead the fan contest with 79 points, but Andrew and Sean have been steadily chipping away at a huge lead that he had early in the season. Andrew is only 2 points back, and Sean is 3 points back with 77 and 76 apiece. This past week was a great week for us lone wolfing it. We only had one failed lone wolf pick this past week. So Eric had 3 lone wolf games, got all of them right. He was alone picking the Vikings to beat their 3-point spread against New England. Picked the Dolphins to beat their 13-point spread against Houston, although they certainly tried to let Houston cover by taking Tua out in the third quarter and then never putting him back in, even after they kept going 3 and out. Houston's defense got so many half-point bonuses for forcing 3 and outs.
Dude, I was like, Mike McDaniel is lucky he's not on my list after that, because for one thing,
apoplectic.
just talking about they were only up 24 points, right? That's a 3-possession game. If the
Texans score 3 touchdowns and 3 2-point conversions,
which is not likely, but it could happen.
Yeah,
it's
in the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, so I was like, damn, taking Tua out now with 2 minutes left in the third quarter seems premature. It's 30-6. You might want to leave him in for a couple more possessions. It got to the point where if the Texans were, continued to sustain offense like they had for those couple of drives, they could have legitimately gotten back in the football game.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, why the hell is Tua not in the game? No, you take him out when it's 30-6 with 7 minutes left, dude. That was way too premature. And the thing is, if you take the starting quarterback out and you have to put him back in, that proves that taking him out in the first place was a dumb decision. But don't exacerbate the dumb decision by doubling down and leaving him out, saying, no, we already took him out, so we just got to live with what happens.
Another dumb decision.
Right, yeah. Two dumb decisions now.
I was just like, I had that game written off. I was like, it's 30-0 in midway through the third quarter. I'm like, that's a win. And then sure enough, I see the hell, the Texans have the ball, and they just need a score of any type, and suddenly we're not covering anymore. I was just like, Can y'all get a stop?
Yeah, for all the good stuff that we've been able to kind of point to from Mike McDaniels over the last few weeks, like that was one of those decisions that just like shows that maybe you're not super serious about winning football games.
Well, and the thing is, though, I can give a rookie head coach a pass for that, just because it's like you're like, hey, we're up 30-6, we're fine. Like that's kind of like something you might have to learn how to manage a team a little bit. This is the clock management stuff that drives me crazy because everybody can play Madden, so what's your excuse?
Right.
And it's when you call cutesy plays, like stupid ass, they call the Philly special on 2nd and goal from the 2. Just run a normal play.
Or when you challenge a play that's would have been a 4th down, and you want to challenge because it's you think it should be 4th and 9 instead of 4th and 17.
Right.
Yes. Thank you, Kevin Stefanski. I know because I was there. Like Evan and I watched it happen. We're like, what are they challenging? We didn't get it, and they interrupted a really good punt, and then they had a bad punt.
So the other game,
it's the other way around. It was the other way around. Interrupted a bad punt, and then Stout crushed it on the punt that counted.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
the other game that Eric successfully picked Lone Wolf was the Commanders to cover their 4-point spread against Atlanta.
That was a doozy too.
Yep. I was alone picking the Browns to cover the 3.5-point spread against Tampa Bay. That happened.
That was also a doozy.
Late cover. And then also I'm picking the Cardinals to cover the 4.5-point spread against the Chargers. Cardinals finally had a pretty good game.
Should have known better.
Yep. And then Evan was alone picking the Jets to beat their 4.5-point spread against Chicago. Great pick there with White Mike.
They put their good quarterback in.
They did.
That's true.
They sure did. And it was
We
Joe Flacco,
should've-
hun.
We should have seen that coming with no Justin Fields too.
Yeah.
That was
Well, yeah, but it was also Tuesday, and we weren't sure if Justin Fields was going to be
That's
inactive
true,
or
yeah.
not. So that was part of what went into making
I
that pick.
didn't realize he wasn't going to play.
Yeah, I felt like 4.5 was big enough to take the risk of hoping that he would play. But in any case, the only Lone Wolf pick from the three of us this week that failed was Evan taking the Broncos -2.5 against Carolina.
That wasn't even close.
I don't understand the Broncos, right? Like
What's not to understand? They're bad.
Russ
but like
can't
they
cook.
shouldn't be bad.
Russ is cooked. Why
Yeah,
shouldn't
but
they be bad? What do they have?
I mean, they paid all this money for Russ, right? Mr. Unlimited.
Mr. Very limited.
They paid all this money
Mr.
and gave up
Extremely limited.
and gave up all these picks.
Yes. Yeah, it's oh my God. I didn't know they were this bad. Right?
Mr.
Like-
Unbelievably limited.
Yeah. It was funny because some Broncos fans, or maybe just Russell Wilson fans, if those people exist, like people who just like
So-
Russell Wilson.
The guy who Russell Wilson talks to when he looks in a mirror. That guy was rooting for Russell Wilson.
Like they were, of
in
course,
the mirror of any of his 12 bathrooms that he's not going to throw as many touchdowns as.
Yes, like
Yes.
like similar to like Bill Walton had a great quote, which is not unusual because Bill Walton is hilarious.
He has a lot of great quotes.
Yes, usually when he's high, because he's always
Yes.
high.
With all 5 teams in his Final Four.
Yes, he's got 5 teams making the Final Four. Yeah. But anyway, like back when Bill was actually working on, like, he's covering the NBA for ESPN. This was the Denver. He was talking about the Denver Nuggets. This is when they had Carmelo Anthony and Allen Iverson on the team, and he said that the Denver Nuggets are leading the NBA in excuses, and that's kind of how I feel about this current Denver team. You know, same city and all. It's just like, oh, well, this guy's hurt, got offensive line injuries, receivers are banged up. I'm like, okay, but none of that matters, because what really it boils down to is Geno Smith has the same damn team that Russell Wilson had last year, and he's balling.
He has that team in the playoff spot right now.
Yes, he is. He looks like a Pro Bowl quarterback this
Or are they
year.
still in a playoff spot, or are they like right on the bubble?
I think they're
They
on the
might
bubble.
be like the first team out right now, because I think Washington has that last spot. But regardless,
Yeah.
they're playing good football.
I eliminated them in week 1.
You did.
It looks like the worst decision ever.
Seahawks are half a game behind Washington.
Yeah, so that is all the proof you need. Like, no shade to Geno Smith, who's probably better than we gave him credit for, but he still was a backup quarterback who replaced Russell Wilson on a team that was supposedly unwinnable Like, you can't win with this team. That was the excuse. Russell Wilson has no help. Well, Geno Smith has elevated that team to a borderline playoff team, whereas Russ had them basically picking in the top 5. That tells you all you need to know about how cooked Russ is.
Yep.
Would you have been able to legitimately say Geno Smith was better than Russell Wilson 3 years ago? No, you sound like a moron for saying that. You sound like an absolute idiot for suggesting that. But now you would sound like an idiot suggesting it's not true.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And hey, shout out to Geno Smith. He's about to be the first quarterback from the 2013 draft class with 10,000 passing yards. He's less than 300 yards away from that mark.
That was 10 years ago.
I know it was.
Who were the other quarterbacks drafted that year?
Mike Glennon.
So Mike
E.J.
Glennon's
Manuel.
number 2, then EJ Manuel, and then 2 guys who I don't even remember.
What are the names?
I think one was like Cobb. Wasn't it like Cobb?
Is there Cobb? There's a Webb. Davis
No,
Webb. He was later.
Davis Webb.
Yeah, Davis Webb was one of them, and I thought like Cobb was one, like KOLB.
Kevin
Cobb.
Yeah, maybe Kevin Cobb.
But Kevin Cobb was drafted before that because he was supposed to be McNabb's replacement, and then he got hurt, and then Vic took over and destroyed the R words on Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Kevin Cobb was the passer for Ed Reed's 108-yard pick 6.
Yes, I'm still mad about that, by the way.
Why?
Because
So hold on, no, so it was not Glennon. It was Glennon. So it's Geno Smith, then Mike Glennon, then EJ Manuel, then Matt Barkley, and then Landry Jones. Those are the top 5.
Matt Barkley, the guy who played at USC for 3 years, and everybody kept saying this guy's going to be the next great quarterback, and he was every year.
Yeah. He was the Jimmy G of college football,
Yes.
right? He was just attractive. He looked like a quarterback in sunny California, but that was it. He couldn't actually play.
No, he could not.
So
He
same
was
with
garbage.
Jimmy G. Sunny California, guy looks like a quarterback. He's tall. The dancers from the Warriors come to say hi to him and him only, and he sucks.
So barring injury, Geno Smith a lock to reach 10,000 career passing yards, which will mean that once again, or that the only draft class, or the most recent draft class, I should say, that has not had a 10,000-yard passer, with the exception of the last 2 where the players have not been around long enough, 2007.
Jamarcus Russell, baby.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, Evan, quick story time about the Ed Reed pick 6 against the Eagles. So I was in a pick'em pool that year with my family before they decided to stop doing it because they got offended by players kneeling, because of course they did.
Okay. Yes.
So I intended to pick the Ravens, but somehow I screwed up and punched in Philly, and I found out later that I had to root for Philly to win that game, even though Philly was really not very good that year, and the Ravens were pretty darn good. And I was like, oh, crap. Well, I guess I got to root for the Eagles now. But the Eagles were in the game. McNabb got hurt. And I was like, okay, what's this guy going to do? It's like, they're in the red zone. They're driving right down the field, about to score a touchdown to potentially, I don't remember if it would have made the game closer or if they would have actually taken the lead.
I don't remember either.
And then Goofball throws a pick right to Ed Reed in the back of the end zone. And the dude just streaks out of there and runs all the way the other way for a touchdown. And I'm just like, I hate you so much, Kevin Cobb. I hate everything about you.
The full, you've got to be kidding me. How did that happen? And that's why you lose.
That was my first real moment of understanding who Ed Reed was. I was like, oh, yeah, that's Ed Reed. Okay. I got you.
Yep. All right. So with Eric winning this past week's contest, he gets to be the first person this week to eliminate a team from the playoffs. So every week, we started the week leading into week 1, we eliminate a team from the playoffs. The rules are you cannot eliminate the same team as somebody else in the same week. So whoever Eric eliminates today, I cannot eliminate with my second pick, and Evan cannot eliminate with his third pick. So at this point in the season, sometimes it can be helpful to have a couple teams who maybe the other two have already eliminated, because then you can eliminate them this week, especially if you're the last person like Evan will be this week. But
And last week.
Yeah, and last week. So
Like
those are the rules. And let's go ahead and get started. So Eric, so far you have eliminated in order the Seattle Seahawks, the Atlanta Falcons, the Chicago Bears, the New York Jets, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Denver Broncos, the Carolina Panthers, the Detroit Lions, the Houston Texans, the New Orleans Saints, and last week you eliminated the Cleveland Browns. Who are you cutting from the playoff field this week?
Whew. This is a little bit of a doozy, but actually, no, it's not. But
There's at least one pretty easy pick out there who I will take if you don't take them.
Okay, well, I'm going to figure out what that is. Because I've got some easy, low-hanging fruit to pick there. Let's see. Who do I want to get rid of here? Who's liable to get cut loose? I am going to... Thank you, Mr. Turk. You just need your piano. He only played the first measure. You need to cut
but
it
I'm
out.
just showing off that I can whistle.
Good for you. I'm so happy for you that you can whistle. That's wonderful for you, Corey. That's just amazing.
Congratulations.
Right. Yes, congratulations indeed. Now I've lost my train of thought, Corey. You've completely thrown me off my game here.
Good. I'm hoping you don't find that team that I was.
Oh no, I think I found it.
Who you got?
It's time because I could have gone Rams, but it's too easy. I could have gone Cardinals, but you already did them, so that's not as fun. Green Bay Packers.
Oh.
That is not who I was thinking of at all.
I'm curious as to who you were thinking of.
Oh, I was absolutely thinking the Rams.
Oh, well, I figured they were too easy, and Evan's already eliminated them.
Yeah, Evan has eliminated them.
So
I eliminated the Packers, too.
Oh, you really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Evan eliminated the Packers the week before that.
Okay, so I had to pick one of those between them, the Cardinals, and the Rams. I had plenty of choices.
Well, there you go.
This wasn't
So
the best
anyway,
week to be number
so there you go. Eric is going to eliminate the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to eliminate, I already said it, the Rams, so I'll just go ahead and type that in. But leading up to this week in order, I had eliminated the New York Giants, the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, the Washington Commanders, the Houston Texans, the Detroit Lions, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Cleveland Browns, the Chicago Bears, the Indianapolis Colts, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Arizona Cardinals last week, and now today the Los Angeles Rams. They are donezo. So that brings us to Evan. Evan, you got to eliminate a team. In order, you have eliminated the Houston Texans, the New York Jets, the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, the Washington Commanders, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Detroit Lions, the Denver Broncos, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Green Bay Packers, the Los Angeles Rams, and last week, the Chicago Bears. I almost made it all the way through that list.
Yeah, I was
I had to take a breath after
I
Packers.
was saying he's going to make it.
I almost made it.
Dude, he's about to pass out.
Who you got today, Evan?
Oh, my goodness. Eric, I thought you were going to put me in a bind because I've eliminated 7 NFC teams and only 5 AFC teams. And the only AFC team that I thought deserved elimination this week, and you haven't eliminated them for some reason, the Indianapolis Colts. Hot garbage. Y'all can't play football. So just go sit down. Get out of here.
There you go.
I passed on the Colts probably just because I don't know how much I trust the Titans. Like they're 3 games up, but
After having swept the Colts as well.
But the Colts have a tie, so that's irrelevant.
Oh, okay, that's true. I mean, I think that is relevant because that's one less win, right? The Colts are 4-7-1.
That's a good point.
Versus 4-7, like the Raiders.
Like I said, I was spoiled for choice. I wasn't thinking about screwing you over because, well, you've kind of done that to yourself a little bit, picking the R words and the Jets. That's a couple
Got the
of doozies.
Seahawks in here.
Yeah. I've got the Seahawks.
So at this point in the season, let's see, 1, 2, 3.
And you have
4,
the Jets.
5, 6,
Yeah, I do.
7. So Eric and Evan have each eliminated 7 NFC teams and 6 AFC teams. I have eliminated 8 NFC teams and 5 AFC
Running out
teams.
of real estate there.
Yeah, I am running out of real estate. I can only eliminate
who's
one
the-
more.
Who's the other NFC team? You can only get rid of
Yeah,
one.
you guys are
one
going to have
other-
to figure that out. And, yeah.
Well, because he already got rid of the commies, though, so...
Yeah. That one's
I mean, it's
going to
be
iffy.
it's got to be an NFC West team.
I've eliminated the
Rams.
Cardinals and the Rams.
Okay. Well, then it's going to be the
Could
you
be- it
eliminated
could
the
wind up being-
Giants too.
It could wind up being the Packers, who you guys have already eliminated.
Probably the Packers. Yeah. Don't they? They're 4-8.
Yeah.
That's
they
why
gotta
I
go.
cooked them.
Yep.
That was an easy choice.
All right, so best and worst of Week 12, according to Football Outsiders and their DYAR metric. I already mentioned earlier that Kirk Cousins was the best quarterback of the week. Kyle Allen was the worst out of cold storage.
Mm-hmm.
The best running back by total DYAR, no surprise, Josh Jacobs. What a beast. Came out
What a beast.
Came
We
out
didn't
and
say
played-
that 3 months ago.
No, we did not.
No.
We said, what a bust. That's what we said.
Bust, beast, same word, right?
Ballpark.
Yeah, ballpark. Was hurt. They didn't want him to come out and play in the overtime period, but he wound up going out and ripped off like an 80-yard touchdown run to win the game for the Raiders. The worst running back by total DYAR was Damian Pierce. He's looked pretty rough lately. Largely a product of that atrocious Houston Texans offense. But yeah, that offense is gone down the gutter. The best running back by rushing only was Samaje Perine this week. Played in Joe Mixon's absence, Mixon recovering from a concussion. The worst by rushing DYR only was James Conner.
A very lucky man to not be on this week is Alvin Kamara. For the first time.
2 fumbles.
Yeah, first time in his career, he coughed up 2 fumbles in the same game.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yep. Best and worst wide receiver or receivers, just in general, wide receiver and tight end are combined here. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the best. Mike Evans, the worst. Oof.
What the hell were the Bucs doing out there? Like, they punted from their own.
Smoking and joking.
They punted from Cleveland's 37 on 4th and 2.
You got Ryan Suckup. He's a good kicker.
You've got Tom Brady and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Just run a play.
Yeah.
You can pick up 2 yards.
Yep.
Have the Bengals played the Buccaneers yet? Because the Bucs are in danger of getting swept by the AFC North.
I don't think they have.
Yeah, I think that might be the one left on their schedule. I'm not sure off the top of my
How
head.
do you lose to Cleveland and Pittsburgh and still be in first place
And
in your
Indianapolis.
And the Ravens in a home game on Thursday night. The home teams.
How am I mixing up divisions?
I don't know.
Unbelievable.
Anyway,
They have the Bengals on December 18th
there you go.
in Tampa.
So moving on to Week 13 and our picks against the spread. These are BetMGM spreads as of 5 o'clock this afternoon, Wednesday, November 30th. 15 games this week. The Cardinals and the Panthers are on bye. We'll have 2 games missing next week as 4 teams are on bye. Next week will finally be the last week of byes for the season. Thank God. Thursday night football. Tomorrow night, Buffalo Bills at New England Patriots. The Bills are favored by 3.5 points. What are we thinking on this game? I'm going to start with you for this one. Evan.
Oh, okay. Well, I already have all my picks written down.
That's why I'm starting with you.
Yes. We all know that nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, and we used to know that the Bills were going to win the Super Bowl. I got the Bills laying the points. Usually, road teams on Thursday night are at a severe disadvantage, but both of these teams played last Thursday on Thanksgiving, so it's a full week off. The Bills are definitely better than the Patriots, so give me Buffalo.
Yeah, and both teams had to travel back to the New England area because the Bills were in Detroit and the Patriots were in Minnesota. So pretty similar travel schedules there for the 2 teams over the last week. So I'm on the same page as you, Evan. Outside of the nobody circling the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, because clearly that may not be true anymore. Some teams may circle the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, but this week they are going to win, and I doubt that they will be as courteous to the Patriots tables as they were to the Detroit Lions tables last week when they left them all up for the Lions Thanksgiving dinner. Eric, who you got?
Circuitous. What?
Okay.
Did I throw you off that much?
I mean, well, then Evan with the response just I when I see these 2 teams go head to head, I can't help but I struggle to unsee the 47-7 ass blasting that the Bills handed the Patriots. the Bills are so much better. And I realize the Bills have had a little bit of a midseason slump, but this feels like a game where not only can they get right, they want to get right against Bill Belichick and the Patriots, that they should win this game and cover this line. I'm going to lay the 3.5 as well.
Okay. Clean sweep for Thursday Night Football. We can all go to bed early tomorrow. Let's move on to Sunday. Big slate of games starting with at 1 o'clock. A lot of small spreads this week, by the way, I noticed. So we'll start with the Steelers at the Falcons. Steelers laying 1 on the road.
Well, I'll start again.
Go ahead.
We already know that this is not a road game, right? Like, the Steelers travel well, which isn't really a thing. Like, there's just Steelers fans everywhere. And then, they make more Steelers fans, as, living organisms do. So there's going to be so many Steelers fans. The Falcons can't draw, even though they have this gigantic, shiny new stadium. It's empty. So there's going to be plenty of good seats available. They're going to be all bought up by Steelers fans who just live in Atlanta anyway. The Falcons are just garbage, very unsexy garbage as well. Just give me Pittsburgh. They're a tougher team, and they'll be basically the home team in this game. And it's only -1. Like, if a team's going to win, they have to win by at least 1. So, now they just have to win by 2.
Yep. All right, so Evan laying the point and taking the Steelers.
Laying the point.
This one actually I had to do a little bit of thinking about because, the Falcons have been very frisky. Marcus Mariota has not been very good. I mean, I think he has like one of the highest off-target rates of any quarterback in the NFL, but he still manages to keep these games competitive, and with Cordell Patterson back in the mix, he's playing really well. They've been starting to get Tyler Algier more involved, but guys who have not been involved include Drake London, who's a really good player and just is not a part of their offensive game plan seemingly. Kyle Pitts just had knee surgery. He's on the IR, done for the season. But even before that, he was not being involved in their game plan. I think the Steelers have been so bad for so much of the season that it's hard for me to get past that, but they're definitely trending in the right direction. Kenny Pickett is playing pretty decently as their starting quarterback. George Pickens has been incredible. Pat Freiermuth is good. Najee Harris has gotten a lot better over the last couple of weeks. And granted, he missed most of this past week's game because he got hurt, and we're not sure what's going to happen with him. But Benny Snell came in and did a fantastic job in relief. And if they have to turn to him this week, I imagine he's going to do just fine against a pretty porous Atlanta Falcons defense. It's a better defense than it has been for the past few years, but it's still, exactly, it doesn't mean very much. So I am also laying the point. I'm going to take the Steelers because I feel like they're the hotter team right now.
I feel like, though, the reason Drake London and Kyle Pitts aren't and weren't involved in the Falcons offense is because Marcus Mariota sucks. I mean, the one Falcons game I had the misfortune of watching so far this season was that Thursday game in Carolina where he's just flinging the ball blindly just down the field as he's tripping over himself because the defender tapped him a little bit. Oh, he's so lucky his butt was down before he just flung the ball playing 500 dead or alive, and it gets taken back to the house in a play that doesn't count.
I'm pretty sure in the NFL it still has to be alive. I don't think you can do dead or alive.
I mean, are the Falcons dead or
alive? Unless you throw it
sure.
backwards, then absolutely you can play dead or alive.
Don't put that past Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't know if he knew which direction he was facing as he flung the ball down the field.
He didn't know what planet he was on.
Eric, who you got?
Oh,
That's a lot of conversation about one of the worst games on the slate this week. Give me the Steelers.
All right. Let's get to Evan's Ravens, who are laying 8.5 at home against the Broncos. Is it enough is really the question, because the Broncos are so bad.
It's the Ravens, man. They've been loafing.
Right. That's where I'm nervous.
They couldn't cover against the Panthers.
They couldn't cover against the Panthers. They couldn't cover against the Jaguars.
Couldn't beat the Jaguars.
And so this is one of those where should the Ravens be able to beat the Broncos by 8.5? Absolutely. They should be double-digit favorites in this game. But they're not good enough to have deserved that kind of a line, and I'm not about to give them any more respect than what they have earned to this point, which is that I would not take them if they were more than a 3.5-point favorite, and even then I might have to second-guess it. I'm taking the Broncos and the points. Lock it in. Eric.
Lock it in, huh? I can't pick the Broncos.
Did you see the Ravens play?
Have you seen the Broncos play? They got their ass whooped by the Panthers, man. This is
the Ravens, though.
This is a really good line because again, that's the exercise.
That's the exercise.
Yes. Yeah. So this is a really good line because it's taking advantage of my trepidations on both teams so thoroughly. But at this point, it's not about analyzing who I think is going to win because I think that's a fruitless endeavor. So I'm going to go with who I want to win, and that's Baltimore because I'm so tired.
The Ravens can win without covering that spread.
I know, but
there's a lot of points in there.
Dude, you don't understand. If I have to root for the Broncos to have any measure of success, it's going to make me want to kill myself. So, no, just give me the Ravens.
Evan.
Listeners of this podcast know I'm a licensed distributor of purple Kool-Aid.
You're also a licensed distributor of emotional hedging.
You've mastered the craft of the emotional hedge.
Yeah. Let's see. So the Broncos are terrible. They can't run the ball or pass the ball or call timeouts at appropriate times, or take accountability for their suckitude. But then the Ravens on the other side will certainly get up to a huge lead in this game, and then it's going to be a nail-biter down at the end. So I am taking the Broncos and the points because this game is going to be close, like every Ravens game. So if one team is getting 8.5 more points than the other in a close game, I want that team. This Ravens team,
Yeah, that's exactly my line of thinking. So we'll move on. The Packers laying 4.5 on the road in Chicago, and we know fade the pack, but I'm taking the Packers this week. Christian Watson has been that guy lately. He's been really good. Finally giving Aaron Rodgers somebody to throw to, and Aaron Rodgers says that he plans to play this week. Thinks he can play this week. Justin Fields is expected to be back this week, but the Bears just lost Darnell Mooney, who's really kind of like their one good receiver, because Chase Claypool has not really been able to find his footing within that offense. Cole Kmet has had a couple of decent weeks recently within the past month, but he's not a guy you can rely on week in and week out.
Really? Imagine having him on your fantasy team.
Right. Imagine having him in the first 2 weeks when he averaged no receptions on one target each week.
You were hyping up Darnell Mooney, who got 4 yards in the first
two games combined,
despite having 8 yards in the first game.
Right.
So,
so that did not work out. Thankfully, for all the hyping up I did of him and, quite frankly, Cole Kmet, I did not wind up with either of them on my main league team. I think I did have Cole Kmet in my DeMatha League team. Took goose eggs both weeks for my tight end position and still won both games easily. Still was one of the highest scorers of the week. So anyway, back to this game.
All 3 of my teams, and he's not playing.
Yeah. So. Back to this game. The Packers I think they are the better team right now. If Justin Fields plays, I think that it's going to be kind of tough sledding for him. because the Packers are really going to be able to focus on him as a runner and not have to respect him as a passer at all, which, his passing has still been kind of, shoddy, but he's done enough over the past month and a half that teams had to start respecting his ability to throw the ball. And that opened it up for him to be able to run the ball more. I don't think that's going to be the case this week. I think that the Packers are really going to get in the backfield and swallow him up a lot. So I'm taking Green Bay to and laying the 4.5. Evan, who you got?
Give me the Bears, because I don't trust the Packers as far as I can throw them.
That's
out
fair. Fade
on
the
Packers.
pack. I've been saying it all year. I'm not listening to myself this week.
Yeah. I'm so done with Aaron Rodgers. He's been on the ayahuasca and smelling his own farts all the time. He's he owns the Bears, but he doesn't seem invested in football this season. Not as bad as Tom Brady looks like he's going through the motions, but Rodgers just seems, he doesn't look like he's having fun out there. At the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun. The Bears are fun, despite being terrible. The Packers were supposed to be good. I think I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. That is not going to happen. The Packers run game has been terrible. The Packers defense was supposed to be good. It's been terrible. So give me the Bears at home.
Why did you think the Packers are going to make the Super Bowl?
Well, they've been the 1 seed each of the last 3 years.
What was it 2 years ago that we picked them to miss the playoffs and they were the 1 seed?
Probably.
Yeah. They were the 1 seed in 2020 and 2021, right?
Yeah, we definitely picked them to miss the playoffs outright in one of those years.
Yeah, in 2021 we did, yeah. Well, and then 2019 they were the 2 seed and then had to go to San Francisco and got bludgeoned by
Evan was just correcting for last year.
Yeah.
Oh, that was rough.
I thought they were the best team in a really soft NFC.
That's fair.
They lost Devontae Adams, though.
Still, it was a really soft NFC, we thought.
Yeah. Jimmy G sucks.
Who knew that the NFC East was going to be awesome?
Yeah, exactly. The NFC
receiver,
East.
His best receiver is
no
Adam
longer the
Lazard.
NFC least. They're the NFC beast.
Bruh. How do you pick the Packers to go to the Super Bowl? Anyway, if Fields is out there, he's going to do some magical stuff, and that's enough for me to want to take the points. So, Bears.
Okay. I will lone wolf that one. Jaguars laying 1 on the road at Detroit. This one's a slam dunk in my opinion. I'm taking that point and running with it. I'm going Lions all the way. The wrong team is favored in this one in my opinion.
Oh. I also say this every week. I get concerned when I agree with Corey. I got the Lions as well. Maybe I'm just a little salty over what happened this past Sunday, but give me the Lions.
Eric?
Lions.
Oh.
Easy peasy, clean sweep.
I thought I was going to be on the Lonely Island, but I guess I'll wait till this game then.
We're all rooting for Man Campbell, man.
Yes.
We don't know if it'll actually work, but we're invested.
Yeah, I am. Browns Texans in Houston. Deshaun Watson returns to his old stomping grounds.
And all of his
Hopefully he
former
was
possessions
only
will be
stomping.
Or, well, like half of them at least.
there. Well, only actually like
10.
10 out of
Only
7.
10.
So less than
He's
half.
sexually
Because so
assaulted.
many have accused him.
Well, yeah,
Aren't
and
they-
there's a
isn't it
bunch
like
that
40
didn't,
now?
but probably wanted to.
Yeah.
He had, I think he said like the total number was like 70.
70.
What?
70 masseuses that he's employed.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
He almost sold out the stadium with women he sexually assaulted. This is absurd.
Yeah. This
All right,
almost
I don't
going
even
to
want to
jail.
talk about this game any more than we have to. So can we all just like say a name? Browns are laying 7 on the road. Who have we got? Evan,
Texans.
Eric.
out of pure principle, Texans.
I hate that you guys stole my thunder because that's exactly the reason I was going to give. But yes,
I'm
we're
willing to eat a loss here so that I don't have to root for Nasty Boy.
Clean
I think
sweep.
the Browns are overrated.
Texans
I don't know that Deshaun Watson is as good as his contract says.
This game on Sunday will mark 700 days since the last time that he has played in an NFL game. And we're supposed to expect that he's going to come in and just immediately be as good as Jacoby Brissett was this year and holding down the fort. Jacoby Brissett did everything he could to keep this crummy team even in the hunt. They're 4-7 right now. They're somehow still in the hunt.
Jacoby Brissett has been fantastic.
He has been really good.
And they're still 4-7, which means they're not actually good.
Yeah. So,
Deshaun Watson ain't gonna
the
fix
Texans
that.
also aren't good, but
The Texans are awful.
I am willing to eat an L if that is what happens this week.
Yep. I bet the rest of the L's for the Browns the rest of the year. I might just always say, you know what? Bet against it. Fade the Browns.
Hopefully we won't have to see much of this game on Red Zone this Sunday. I would rather not see much of that.
Me either.
Jets at Vikings. Vikings laying 3 at home against White Mike and the New York Jets. It's not prime time. Granted, primetime Kirk did pretty well this past week. So what happened? What if he took all of the mojo from 1 o'clock Kirk for week 13 and applied it to primetime Kirk in week 12?
I think the refractory period is not as long as 10 days. I think he's got plenty of time. To regain his juices there. So, I'm going to take the Vikings.
Evan, who are you
We
taking?
bookend this show talking about these things in subtle ways.
Jesus.
I have the Jets, Jets. The Jets' defense is good. They have Mike White playing quarterback, and the Vikings are frauds, like we know. I think Cousins turns back into a pumpkin. He'll be flummoxed by playing an actual good defense.
The Patriots are also a good defense, to be fair.
I like the word flummoxed.
I do like that word. That's a great word.
Yeah.
But the Patriots are also a good defense, and Kirk Cousins played pretty well against them. So
like Eric said, he used up his one good play. Like, it's spent now.
I said that.
I think I said that.
I mentioned other things in a very interesting way.
Okay. Yeah, I got it backwards. Whatever. Jets.
In any case, Jets do have a good team. Not only do they have a good defense, but they also have a good offense, unlike the Patriots. They have good players. They've got Michael Carter, who's been pretty good. They've got what's the name of the rookie who they had in there for some of the game this past week? I think Evan picked him up today, spent a whole bunch of fab, even though he was the only person to put a claim on him. It starts with a Z.
His name is like Zonovan?
Yeah, it's Zonovan something.
It's not your boy Zach Stacy?
Not
No,
Zach
not
Stacy.
Zach Stacy. I spent all this fab on the guy. I can't remember his name.
Remember his last name. But anyway, was it like Zonovan Davis? I don't think it was
Knight.
Davis. Zonovan Knight. Yeah.
That's not a real person.
He played pretty well this past week. Garrett Wilson's really good. I like the Jets here. I'm going to take the points.
There's Garrett Wilson. There's Jeff Wilson. There's Russell Wilson. It's too much.
Zach Wilson.
Oh, God.
There's a lot of Wilsons.
Hopefully there will be less of Zach Wilson for eternity. I hate Zach Wilson.
I don't think we appreciate how big of a bust Zach Wilson is.
I told y'all he couldn't play. I said it. We could go back, watch the tape with Hugh of our draft analysis. I said, this guy ain't going to be it. And then Corey said that about Trey Lance, and he was right about him. So, we both can take some W's from the 2021 NFL draft.
I also said that about Danny Pennies, and then he started to be good, and we kind of went back on it, and then we were like, yeah, no, he actually is bad.
Yeah, but we all were on Danny Pennies. We were like, what the hell are the Giants doing?
Yeah. Speaking of Danny Pennies, the Giants are home dogs this week. The Commanders laying 2.5 on the road. That's a bit of a tough line, but I'm taking the Commies. They've been playing pretty good football lately. Brian Robinson has done a really good job. Antonio Gibson has kind of become the secondary running back, but when he does come in as a change of pace guy, he's done a decent job. Taylor Heineke certainly has this team playing a whole lot better than Carson Wentz had been. And the Giants are just kind of reverting back to being the Giants. Daniel Jones doesn't look good. They got nothing really at receiver. Their defense has started to look pretty bad again. And even Saquon Barkley can't seem to save them. He's been kind of rough lately. So I'm going to lay the points and take the road favorites, kind of gritting my teeth a little bit as I do it, but I'm going to do it. Eric.
Who did the Giants play this past week?
They put the Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Ran
Go
the
ahead.
cover play.
Yeah, they
Much
ran-
to Eric's and my chagrin.
Oh.
All right. I guess I'll go. The Commies have been good, like legitimately a good team since Taylor Heineke took over. I don't know if it's because Heineke is just so good. I don't think that's it. I think
It's because he's so much better than Carson Wentz. He's not
maybe.
so good, but he is so much better than Carson Wentz.
Like Taylor Heineke isn't a good quarterback, but he is not demoralizingly bad like Carson Wentz is, right? Like
I'm not sure if I would put Taylor Heineke as a top 20 quarterback in the NFL, but he's certainly in the top 30, unlike Carson Wentz.
you wouldn't even have Carson Wentz in the top 40. So
No, I would not.
But yeah, like Carson Wentz would go out there and he would make plays that would make teams just quit on the game. Like just like, wow, this idiot just did that.
You mean a lefty 0-yard pick six?
You know, exactly. Like,
demoralizing?
he
Is that what
he
you're
does the
saying?
type of stuff where teams would just be, all right, I'm done. I can't do
Going
it this
home.
week. Whereas Taylor Heineke, he always seems to at least keep you in it. He keeps you engaged. He seems to have some moxie and leadership so that even when things are going south, even if it's his fault, he can rally the troops a little bit. I also, the big hats, you know, just the Brian Robinson big hat thing.
The
It's a-
SVP big hat on
Yeah,
Monday.
it was great. It's a vibe. There's vibes here. The Commies have vibes. I'm going to roll with the vibes. I feel like the Giants had their vibes, but they're kind of gone now. Now the Commies have the vibes. So give me the Commies.
I have Washington as well. Like this
Oh.
is wow. Yeah, Washington. I wrote COMMZ. Just
Comms.
like, I mean, the Giants are frauds. We notice, but like, for all the reasons you said, Eric, the Commanders have a little juice. They got some vibes. You know, it's been an addition by benching with Carson Wentz not being out there. Taylor Heineke is certainly less talented than Carson Wentz, but Carson Wentz isn't as good at football for some reason. I maybe it's between the ears. I feel like Heineke's more likable than Carson Wentz, right? The guys just like him better. So it's. I mean, I think the Commanders. This is another mortal lock. So, I might drive to Charlestown on this one.
You don't have to
We'll
drive
see.
to Charlestown. Just download an app of your choosing. We're in Maryland, baby.
Yeah.
It's legal now.
Yes.
I need to go back to Charlestown because I bet $20 and I won $19.10.
You know, you
So,
get your money.
woohoo!
There you go.
Yeah.
Did you net $19.10 or
Or did you net a loss of 90 cents?
I netted a loss of 90 cents.
Ah.
yeah? But you still gotta go get your
Yeah.
money.
I still have to go get the 1910.
Yep.
Otherwise, you've lost 20.
How far is Charlestown from Mount Airy?
It's about a 45 minute drive. So
That's not too bad.
basically the same distance to civilization where y'all live.
My old boss at the Sports Learning Complex used to drive to Delaware every week.
I mean, I was in 2020. I drove to DC every week. I had to go pick up a lot bigger tabs than $19, so I was like, I
Well,
can get my
some of
ass
us
down.
aren't, experienced gamblers,
I don't know how experienced Eric was at the time.
I'm not
Well,
betting the house.
I had done winners for a couple of years at that point, and to success. I mean, I'll say it. In 2018, I was betting on some site based out of Singapore.
I remember
and
that.
I won $2,500 that year. So I did okay.
$2,500.
How much did you have to
$100.
pay in fees and stuff?
In order to put money on there for every 100, so basically it's a 6.5% charge. It was massive. You can see why I didn't go back there.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'll do
So
this.
out of the
this
$2,500
year.
that you won, how much did you actually get to keep?
Oh no, I got to keep all of the $2,500. That was a net gain. I'm talking about
okay.
being able
Goodness
to put
gracious.
the money on the site to be able to bet on. But once I cashed it out, it was all mine.
Okay.
Yeah. So that but they sent it like in a money order or something goofy. It wasn't even a check. I had to go to an actual bank to cash it. Like I couldn't just go to an ATM or something that could scan a check.
So did you win $2,500 more than you bet, including the fees that you had to pay
Yes,
to bet?
my net
Okay.
winnings were $2,500. And then I still had a little bit left over, and I bet on the Toronto Raptors to beat the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals, and that was like plus 300. And the Raptors, in fact, won that series. So I was like, sweet, I got my betting money for next year right here now. And I rolled with it. I didn't make any money the next year.
You gave it all back?
I didn't give back the $2,500, but like
just
few,
that extra money that he had started with.
The few hundred that I had left
year.
in the account didn't last.
Yeah. All right. Last 1 o'clock game for Week 13. Titans at Eagles. Philly laying 5.5 at home. I feel like I would need the Eagles to be at least a 7-point favorite before I'd pick against them in this game. I get that the Titans, have some talent. Derrick Henry is still good, even though he may be pretty upset this past week when he fumbled on a very long catch and run near the end zone and wound up giving the touchdown to Treylon Burks instead. But Treylon Burks has also been really good lately, and he seems to have a pretty decent connection with Ryan Tannehill, but they don't really have a lot of other weapons to use. And the Titans' defense is kind of hit and miss. I'm going to take the Eagles and lay the 5.5.
I got the Eagles as well. Like you said, no reason to pick against them. The Eagles are a complete team. So, Philly.
Eric?
So this line implies that if this game was in Nashville, Tennessee would be a slight favorite, or this would be a pick 'em. That ain't right. Eagles.
All right, moving to Sunday, 4:05 p.m. Got two games in this slate on Fox. Got the Seahawks laying 7.5 on the road at the Rams. And when I saw this line, my immediate thought was, oh, I'm absolutely taking the Rams. There's no question here. 7.5 at home? There's no way I'm not picking the Rams. I'm picking the Seahawks. I very quickly thought better of that, particularly with the news that Aaron Donald is not going to be playing. That completely takes away the ability of the Rams defense to limit the Seahawks offense from putting up points. So
No, it doesn't. The Rams couldn't play defense when Aaron Donald was on the field this season.
Even more so. Even more than it already was not, an effective defensive unit. It's that much worse now. I don't know what's going to happen with Matt Stafford with his concussion and everything else that's going on with him, but at this point, I really don't care. I'm taking the Seahawks laying the 7.5.
Stafford has been buns even when he was on the field.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's been awful. And
a late touchdown for Van Jefferson, though, because that's what he does. The Rams are always down by a whole lot, and then Van Jefferson catches a touchdown pass.
I'm reminded of last week when, Corey, you had accidentally written that the Chiefs were playing the Raiders, and they were actually playing the Rams, and they were favored by 14.5. And I was like, oh, my God, that's insane. Give me the Raiders and the points. And then it was like, no, wait, that's supposed to be the Rams. So I was like, okay, Chiefs. Now, what does that tell you about how bad the Rams are, that I could think a line looks ridiculous if somebody is mistaken for the Raiders, or just mistaking you for the Raiders, and it's in the Raiders' favor? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, the Raiders are abysmal. They're poorly coached, and yet I would pick them to crush the Rams.
We're going to get to the Raiders in a minute. But.
7.5, don't love it. Wish it wasn't 7 in the hook. That's annoying.
Yeah.
I don't care, man. The Seahawks are going to run these guys out of the bar.
Well, let's see. The Rams' offense sucks. They have no players on that side of the ball. The Rams' defense sucks. They have Jalen Ramsey, who's collecting checks back there and chasing after people as they're running wide open. So, yeah, there's that team. Or there's the Seahawks, who are just kind of fun. 7.5 points is not nearly enough points. Seahawks roll by like 30. Like this game shouldn't be televised, right? This is the type of beatdown that you cover children's eyes from seeing.
This is like a Cowboys-Vikings game where they just removed it from existence, even on Sunday
Yes.
Ticket. They're just like, we're not showing you this.
No.
Geno Smith needs 281 yards to reach 10,000. He might get 562 yards.
I was thinking he might achieve that in the first quarter.
Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Yeah, this is an easy pick here. Seahawks for sure.
Yes.
Dolphins at 49ers. The 49ers are laying 4. They are the home team. This would suggest on a neutral field the 49ers are 1-point favorites, which I take a little bit of issue with. I'm taking the Dolphins in this game. Tua, the one thing that I can understand maybe making people nervous is that Tyreek Hill is questionable. He's dealing with a little bit of an injury. But the Dolphins have been really good. Tua has been excellent. And the 49ers have been pretty good, but Elijah Mitchell just got hurt again. Christian McCaffrey is nursing an injury. He's dealing with a sore knee, and he's questionable. I don't think he even practiced today. Wide receivers, Deebo Samuel has been kind of ineffective recently. I wouldn't say that's his fault. I think that they just haven't been using him very well over the past 2 or 3 weeks. Like the best player on their offense over the past 2 weeks has probably been Brandon Ayuk, quite honestly, and that's not really a good sign. Nothing against Brandon Ayuk. He's a good player, but he should always be kind of like the fourth guy in that offense. Like it should be Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel 1A, 1B, and then probably George Kittle before you get to Brandon Ayuk. And that hasn't been the case. So I have some concerns about the 49ers right now. And you're telling me I'm getting 4 points for a really good team, almost maybe a juggernaut even in the Dolphins. I'm taking Miami.
So part of the concern with the Dolphins is probably the fact that Terron Armstead got hurt last week against the Texans. And that's when you started to see, like, even before Tua was erroneously removed from the game, the Dolphins' pass protection started to break down a bit. Tua started taking some hits, which maybe encouraged McDaniel to remove him prematurely because he was trying to protect his quarterback. That's not a good recipe for success against the 49ers, who can pass rush with the best of them. And so that's a worry point for me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Jimmy G sucks. We know this.
And the Dolphins just have to, either win or lose by 3 or less.
Yeah, like the fact that the Dolphins are getting 4 points, like if it was 2.5, I'd probably be like, okay, yeah, I'll take the 49ers because I think that they'll win, and chances are they're going to win by 3 or more. But with the possibility of a 3-point win for the 49ers, which is a very distinct possibility, that means the Dolphins win and cover the spread. I'm good, so I'll take the 4 points here with the Dolphins. I'm excited to see this game though, because I think this is
probably going to be. There's quite a few good games in this late window, but I think this is probably going to be the best one.
And I think that this is the biggest test of Tua and that offense, because we've seen them go up against good defenses, right? Like Baltimore's got a good defense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Well, maybe, I don't know.
You'll have to let us know when that starts.
Okay, y'all are supposed to have a good defense. I apologize. We talked about how the Ravens are supposed to do a lot of things they never do.
Mm-hmm.
But
like
the Bills
threw a tin horn in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but the Bills had a good defense, and the Dolphins were able to successfully make a comeback against them. And against the average to bad defenses, they've just absolutely destroyed them. So, but this is probably the best one. That being said, they seem to have an answer so far. They've got a pretty complete unit, and their defense isn't bad. So, I'll take the points.
Evan?
Oh, boy. Let's see. When my grandfather joined the Navy, he had to take a bus from Miami to San Francisco, and it took like 55 hours back in the 50s. That has nothing to do with this game. With that said, I really agree with what y'all said about the Dolphins and stuff, about the point spread and everything. But, my little Post-it note here is also a sheet of integrity, and I wrote 49ers a couple hours ago, and I'm going to roll with them.
I think it's a fine pick, to be honest. Like,
yeah.
I'm excited to see what happens, because I honestly don't know. I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I look at this as more of a pick 'em in my opinion, and so that's where I'm like, yeah, definitely I'm taking the Dolphins, but I don't hate that pick at all, Evan.
There's a distinct possibility that the 49ers win by 2 touchdowns. Like, that could happen.
It could.
Like
especially if Christian McCaffrey is healthy and they actually use him, Like, he's that dynamic of a player that he can make that big of a difference. Because it's not just that he could make a lot of big plays, but it opens it up for Deebo Samuel to make some big plays and for George Kittle to have a lot of room down the seam. So,
just the fact that, if that pass rush dominates, it could overwhelm Tua, it could overwhelm their offense, and that's going to cause them major problems.
I don't think it will be, just because Tua's been pretty good at getting the ball out quickly this season.
He's also been more loosey-goosey in the pocket. Like, he's been able to get out.
Yeah.
Which is something that we didn't really see from... That's not the right phrase for that, but...
Yeah, it's not, but I knew what you meant.
You know what I mean? He's shown a little more... He's shown some wiggle. That's what I should say. He's shown wiggle that he had when he was at Alabama that we didn't see the first couple of years of his career because, let's face it, he was coming off of a hip injury. It looks like he's got some of that back. That could really help this team get out of jams when... Nick Bosa's crazy ass is coming after you. You might need just a move or two to buy a little time and wait for Hill or Waddle to get open. So, again, it'll be a great test for him.
The late afternoon CBS games starting at 4:25. We'll start with the Chiefs at Bengals. This one could be a pretty good game, but a lot of it probably hinges on whether Jamar Chase plays or not. Right now, the Chiefs are laying 2.5 as the road team. So where are we on this one? Because for me, this is a pretty tough line, and it's particularly difficult to pick it today just because we don't know what's going to happen with Chase. We don't know if he's going to play. I'm assuming that he's going to because it seems like he was very close this past week. It sounded like he could have played this past week, and he made the decision to sit. But that also makes me a little bit nervous, because that means that he was not confident in his hip, even though the doctors seem to have cleared him medically. And he was, again, either a non-participant or a limited participant in practice today. So that does make me a little bit nervous about whether he is actually going to suit up on Sunday. And I think that makes a huge difference because, if he suits up, then you basically gain two weapons for that offense. You gain him and you gain Tyler Boyd back. Some may also hinge on whether Joe Mixon plays or not, but Samaje Perine has looked good for the past few years when he has started for the Bengals in lieu of their starting running back. So I'm not too concerned about the Bengals running game. The Chiefs defense is not that great, but they do have a very good pass rusher in Chris Jones. Thank you. I couldn't remember his last name for some reason. I was blanking on his last name.
It's the most generic name for a star player in the league.
Right, I know. Yeah, exactly. But Chris Jones is a very good pass rusher, and that is still the Bengals' weakness is protecting Joe Burrow from a good pass rush. And I think it's particularly difficult for Joe Burrow when the pass rush is coming up the middle because he can climb the pocket a little bit, but moving side to side sometimes seems to be a little bit difficult for him, which it shouldn't be because he can be mobile when he needs to. But he just hasn't really shown that ability to get out to east and west from the pocket on a consistent basis. When he faces a bull rusher up the middle, it just seems like it kind of swallows him up a lot of times. So I'm a little bit nervous about that aspect of it. And partly for that reason and partly because I don't really trust the Bengals defense against the Chiefs offense, I'm going to take the Chiefs to cover this. Patrick Mahomes is still the MVP for this season, in my opinion. They've kind of figured out how to use their mismatch of weapons that they've put around Travis Kelce. You never really know who's going to get you from one week to the next. Some weeks it's Juju Smith-Schuster. Other weeks Marquez Valdes-Scantling comes out of cold storage and has a big game. They got a couple of other weapons that they can turn to. And Isaiah Pacheco has looked really good these past couple of weeks ever since he took over that starting running back role. Probably a little bit overdue, quite frankly. So I'm going to take
on my bench all year.
Yes, I'm going to take the Chiefs in this game, but I'm going to be very nervous about that pick if Jamar Chase is active.
Well, Corey went on the whole soliloquy there.
I have a lot to say about these games this week.
Yeah, I'm
hosting. I did my research.
You did your own research? I got Kansas City as well. I think the Chiefs are far and away the best team in the AFC at this point, despite their losses to the Colts and the Bills. I think they lost to somebody else.
The loss to the Colts particularly bad, but
Yes.
That was also a while ago.
it was.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And, I refuse to believe stuff that doesn't agree with what I already think. Right?
That Bills loss was also a while ago now.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. The Chiefs are rolling. Give me Kansas City. I mean, to win by 3? Like, that's 3?
Yeah, they can
Not
do
like
that.
I'm saying they're going to win by 25 on the road,
Yeah.
Win by 3.
Eric,
As long as they don't line up over the center on a field goal as time is running out. Stupid Titans.
The Bengals kind of own the Chiefs. They beat them last year in the jungle, as they call it. And then they played them in the AFC Championship game. And much to all of our surprise, they beat them in that game too.
I picked Cincinnati that game.
Oh, well, good for you.
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
pretty sure I did not either.
Yeah. The Chiefs, no doubt the Chiefs are good. Like, the Chiefs are the best team in the conference. They've earned that. They've clearly got the best record. But, man, they win a lot of close games. Like, they win tight against teams that they feel like they should beat by more. They should have... Like, they struggled to cover that line against the Rams because... And the only reason they did was because the Rams just kept giving the ball back and giving them the ball back. And eventually, they kicked enough field goals to cover the 14-point line. But against the Titans, they had to go to overtime with Malik Willis starting. Like, ugh, what is that? So there's just some moments where the Chiefs' offense, no shade to Patrick Mahomes, he's doing the best he can with a pretty limited group of receivers. But, there's times where their offense gets a little sluggish, where they don't score as much as we're used to them seeing them score in the red zone, even with Travis Kelce being on a touchdown barrage this year.
Yeah.
So it feels like, I don't know, I think the Bengals could win this one. I think they could swipe it. I'm going Cincinnati.
On to Cincinnati for Eric.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
I'll give it a shot.
Or back on to Cincinnati, I guess.
Well, whatever.
Okay.
Riding with the Bengals. Riding with my man Joey B.
Mm-hmm.
Love Joe Burrow. Love Patrick Mahomes too, but Joe Burrow is newer and dresses fancier.
Mm-hmm.
But Patrick Mahomes has cooler hair.
There you go. All right, the other 425 game. Chargers laying 1.5 on the road in the Death Star at the Raiders. We're going to have to have a quick turnaround from the college football game on Saturday in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think the college game is going to be played on an artificial field. And
That
they're
they
gonna
lay
have
on
the
top
grass.
of the grass?
No, they roll the grass out into
Oh,
the parking
okay.
lot.
The grass sits outside, so it grows naturally.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
They do the
it's
same
pretty
thing
cool.
as the Cardinals have
Yeah, it's
do
pretty
basically.
Cool. Yeah.
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 All right. Well.
Anyway, yeah. So the Chargers are laying 1.5. This one is going to be a fun game. Only not so much because the two teams are good, but because the two teams are
teams
just
are bad.
so mediocre and the Chargers are bordering on bad. And the Raiders are just over that line where they are bad in my opinion. Even though the Raiders have all these really good players, like Josh Jacobs has been killing it this year. Devontae Adams is really good. We all think that Derek Carr is a pretty good quarterback. They lost their star tight end. No worries. Foster Moreau has been pretty good in relief of him.
Fabian Moreau.
I know that's a name somewhere.
Is that some from literature?
Yeah, it sounds like
Maybe. I don't remember.
the island of Dr. Moreau or something like that.
I have no idea. I don't know why I want to call him Fabian. I was doing that this past week because I had Foster
Fabian
Moreau
Washington.
starting, and I kept going to type in the chat like Fabian Moreau. I'm like, wait, no, it's Foster Moreau. Anyway, both these teams are just so mediocre, and the team that's maybe slightly better than the other is on the road. So this sort of becomes a little bit of a wash, maybe a pick 'em, in which case I got to go with the 1.5. It's not a whole lot, but it's something to hang on to. I'm a little nervous because Josh Jacobs was hurt at the end of that last game, and we don't know exactly what his status is going to be this coming week. I don't think he practiced today, but that may have just been to try and make sure that he is able to play this weekend. Just try and rest him up a bit. But I'm going to take the Raiders.
Fabian Moreau is a defensive back for the New York Giants.
I knew that there was somebody.
Because
named
that is
Fabian
actually
He used to
a real
play
person.
for Washington.
That's
why
why.
you
That's
know his
probably
name.
why I want to call him Fabian Moreau, because he played for the team that was my team. Eric, who are you taking this game? Raiders or Chargers?
The problem with stuffing all these dumbass coaches in one division is that they play each other or go head to head a lot.
And then they all lose to Andy Reid.
Yeah, and then or we have to watch them where their team is actually beating the Chiefs and then they don't because their coach is an idiot and Andy Reid's not. You know, it just oh my god. So either you get to watch two coaches chase their own tails, or you get to watch a world-class coach just beat the brakes off of them. You know, it again reminded me of Sean Payton versus Matt Nagy in 2019, just open hand spanking the entire damn game. But there's nobody here that can do that. These Brandon Staley's a dope.
Josh McDaniels is a hack.
Is he worse?
Yes.
Yes.
I think he's worse. Yeah. Like people were giving Staley credit for like, oh, he made the analytics call to go for 2, and I'm like, that's not an analytics call. That's just a gut decision.
I think Brandon Staley is. I think he has the know-how. Like I think he has some coaching chops.
Then what's
He just
missing?
can't get out of his own way. Like, he makes too many dumb decisions.
That's part of coaching.
I know
chops.
that's a part of coaching.
It's like the whole job is to make good decisions.
Imagine, you coaching like, Corey's a great cross-country coach, but he keeps putting the slowest runners in the varsity every week. I mean, what is he doing? But other than that, he's great.
But but that's the thing. Like I could still technically be a decent coach in that situation because I might still be making I might still be putting the workouts together so that all my runners are getting faster. Like my slowest runners might still be improving drastically over the season, but I'm making the dumb decision in the moment to put the slowest runners in varsity.
Yeah. Imagine if Shaper had me out there instead of you for the championship race. Oh my God.
It'd be tough to
I
call him
might
a good
still be
coach.
out there running.
Yeah, they would have stopped the timer on you again.
I
Yes.
mean, to be fair,
got
you
dark.
did run in a race at those championships, and you're not still running, Evan.
Oh no. Yeah.
Anyway, back to Eric.
I have to make a
The
pick.
question I asked of you was
Like 10 minutes ago.
Chargers or Raiders?
Yes, I started talking, and then instead of me filibustering myself,
Evan started filibustering
and then,
for you.
and then
I
you started doing it. So thank you guys for your service. Much appreciated.
Now the bill's going to pass anyway.
Yeah. Go Chargers.
Fair enough. Evan?
What's the point in really arguing?
Y'all know I love the Chargers, but I'm just exhausted with these people. I'm just so tired. And I'm so tired of picking against the Raiders and being wrong every single time because the Raiders suck, but somehow figure out how to win. Like, I don't understand. So both of these teams are just so mediocre when they're supposed to be good. This game is going to be a repeat of the greatest of all tie from last year, right? Like the Chargers are going to convert like 5 fourth downs in a row, and then the Raiders will pick up a fumble and run it back for a touchdown in overtime again. So give me the Raiders.
Sunday Night Football. Colts Cowboys. Biggest line of the week. Cowboys laying 11 points against Indianapolis.
It also feels like the easiest line of the week.
Yeah, I don't.
Same.
Cowboys.
11 is a lot, but I don't think it's enough.
Not nearly enough. Cowboys. Shit. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
It's been a while since I had to do some post-production
That's
editing.
because it's the Colts and the Cowboys. Oh, my God. All right, mark the time. It's 9:24.
We're at 2:23.
Okay.
We're just past 2:23.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm taking the Cowboys. Evan, you taking the Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys?
There we go. All right, Monday Night Football. Return of the Manning cast. Peyton Manning's hometown, New Orleans, at Peyton Manning's former nemesis, Tom Brady. Buccaneers laying 3.5 as the home team. I hate this game so much. Not the line. I think the line is actually kind of easy for me. I'm taking the Saints. But I'm so glad that the Manning cast is back this week because I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to sit through this game.
It's going to be a rough one.
The Buccaneers have been so bad this season. The Saints have been pretty bad this season. And we don't even get to be excited about Alvin Kamara this week because Alvin Kamara coughed up 2 fumbles last week. So I'm sure that he's going to not do that again. But
cough up 3 like Cam Akers in the playoffs.
Oh my God.
Just grassed it
So
I'm
taking the Saints. I'm taking the points. That's all I got to say about that one. No soliloquies for this game, Evan.
No soliloquy. Okay.
Evan, who do you have?
I have literally no idea who to pick here. I don't know. I'm kind of out on the Buccaneers as being a good team, and I'm also kind of out on the Saints being a good team because I picked them to win this crummy division. Oh, that's just give me Tampa Bay because I wrote them on here and they're at home, and I'm going to go to bed early.
Eric, last pick of the week. Who you got? Your Saints or your boy?
What do you mean my boy?
Tom Brady.
Okay, but he's not really my boy like that. Right? Like, come on.
All right, your boy Andy Dalton.
He's definitely not. This is tough because the Saints historically have seemingly had the Bucs number even when they had a talent deficit. But they played earlier this year in the Superdome, and while that game was incredibly stupid, the Bucs ended up covering the spread substantially, even though it was like 3-3 going into the fourth. But then Jameis decided to throw a bunch of pick sixes because he's got 4 broken bones in his back or something like that.
It's still playing football.
Yeah, still playing football.
Which is just, oh my God.
Brilliant.
Makes sense.
Brilliant.
Andy Dalton's a bum. I don't care what his 91.6 PFF grade says. He can't play. I'll use Evan's word, flummoxed by the Buccaneers. Like, I don't understand.
Flummoxed.
Like, how are they this bad? Like, I know their offensive line is not great, but come on. That's not
Tom Brady.
Yeah, like, you've got Tom Brady, you've got good receivers, and it's not like Tom Brady's out here just looking like he's totally washed. He's still, like, top 5 in DYAR.
Do they have good receivers? Mike Evans was the worst of the week.
Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are good pass catchers. Like that's not disputed. The running game has been weird though. Leonard Fournette decided he just doesn't.
He decided to get all hurt.
He got all hurt, but he was bad before that.
And Rashad White has started to get involved, but he's been decent, but he hasn't been good.
Like, I hate to say it, but it feels like the Bucs have gotten a bad coaching year from Todd Bowles. Like, he's been not great.
Yeah.
At the same time, Dennis Allen ain't exactly like that. That's who I have to point to because both of these teams are underachieving. Even with Andy Dalton playing a lot, even with the offensive line woes for the Bucs, these teams should be better than they are. And I think a big part of that goes back to coaching. But
the Saints one is your fault. You sent Sean Payton up the road.
I did. I got my boy Sean Payton to retire. That was bad on me. And it's going to ruin the franchise.
Is he going to coach the Cowboys next year? Is he taking over for Big Blue Mike McCarthy?
I think if I were to bet, he's going to coach the Chargers next year.
Oh.
Like, Staley's going to get fired. Like, maybe not even because he deserved it, although, he kind of does. But, maybe because, the Chargers know Sean Payton has vocally put it out there. I'd be interested in coaching Justin Herbert and the Chargers. That's
filibustering again, Eric.
I'm sorry. It's the last pick of the night. I'm rambling about stuff that has nothing to do with this game. Give me the Bucs. God.
All right.
It's terrible.
All right. Well, that will wrap up our game picks for this week. We'll get our picks up on our website this evening. If you have entered our picks contest, you will receive your ballot this evening as well in your email. So be sure to check for that and submit your picks before Thursday night kicks off tomorrow. That does it for our show. We don't have any other topics to discuss this week. So we are just shy of the 2.5 hour mark. We'll be just over 2.5 hours by the time we get through our outro. But if you have made it this far, we would appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. Smash that subscribe button whether you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, if you're catching us live on YouTube, or even after the fact on YouTube. Some people do tune in after the fact on there. But make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you always know when the latest episode of the Sports Ballers podcast drops. This week was episode 220. A couple weeks, Evan will be hosting episode 222. Deuces will be wild in the middle of December. Email us, thesportsballers@gmail.com, if you have mailbag questions, topics you'd like to hear us discuss on the show, or if you'd like to get in on the picks contest. You're not going to catch us for the season.
Maybe.
We're definitely in a position where we're not going to get caught for the season, I think, at this point. But you can certainly compete with us on a week-by-week basis and get a shout-out on the show, shout-out on the blog. Again, shout-outs to Sean and Andrew for winning the fan contest this past week. They tied me, beat Evan, could not beat Eric. Eric had a very good week in week 12. Follow us on Twitter. Our podcast Twitter handle is @SportsBallers18. For however much longer Twitter remains a thing, you can follow me @Corey Puffett. You can follow Eric @Quagmire67, and you can follow Evan @Evan_Ash13. Before we get out of here tonight, any shout-outs?
I have several.
Okay.
I guess. Shout out to Brent Key, who was the interim head football coach at Georgia Tech, who's now the full-time head football coach at Georgia Tech. Wishing you all the best, and my endorsement so far is just a big shrug. I don't know. I mean, I guess the guys look like they know what they were doing when they were out there, which is an upgrade over the previous guy. Let's see. Shout out to my grandmother, because she and I were absolutely rolling on Thursday playing pinochle for a couple hours. My dad and my sister just, they had no chance, right? It was just total, complete, and utter domination on our part. So like my dad said, anybody can win the first 4 games out of 4. So the shout out the Diversity in Sports podcast. My dad and sister do that. I think they're recording right now too. They took some L's on Thanksgiving on the pinochle table, but I'm sure their podcast is great. I haven't listened to it yet. But
You probably shouldn't say that part, because I have.
Oh, you have? Really?
Yes. I'm a real one, apparently. You're slacking, Evan. That's your fan.
Nobody in my family listens to this podcast, so.
Fair is fair.
That's a fair point.
All right. Eric, any shout-outs?
Yeah, I do, but first I got to say a few things. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to filibuster the shout-out. Mine's more of a solemn rest in peace to Christine McVie, who was the keyboard player and vocalist for Fleetwood Mac. She passed away today. If you're familiar with their oeuvre, which I don't know if either of you two really are. I mean, you probably are.
I mean, I've listened to Fleetwood Mac. I can't say that I knew her name,
Okay.
but I'm familiar with Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, so you probably heard some of the songs that she specifically wrote. And if you knew anything about the band, there's a whole lot of melodrama with the people in the band, and she was one of the only people that was able to stay above all that nonsense and just be a fantastic musician. So she will be missed.
My shout out this week goes to my wife, Rashonda, who is an excellent travel buddy. Handled a good share of the driving on the way up to Connecticut and some of the driving on the way back from Connecticut as well, as we share in that. Shout out to her family, who put together an awesome Thanksgiving meal for us when we got up there to Connecticut. And also shout out to one of my athletes, Yafet Nagusi. I think he actually does tune into the show from time to time. But he ran on Saturday up in New York at the Foot Locker Northeast Regional. Well, now it's the Champ Sports Northeast Regional, formerly known as the Foot Locker Northeast Regional. He is the first DeMatha athlete since my senior year to run in that meet. So he ran in the junior senior race. He finished 28th amongst seniors. It was a fairly small race, but had a good performance, and it was just really cool that he wanted to continue his season and run one more race in his senior year. So shout out to Yafet on a great senior season. Showed a lot of improvement this year, and really glad that he enjoyed it enough that he wanted to travel up to New York. I think his family took Amtrak up to New York, and he got to run in that race. So that was really cool. Rashawn and I stopped by Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx on our way back on Saturday, back to Maryland, to see him run. And also, quick shout out to Leah. Why am I blanking on her last name? I think Leah Stevens is her last name, the top runner for Good Counsel. Eric saw her at WCAC's. She ran up in New York. She ran in the championship girls race, and she finished 5th place to qualify for Foot Locker or for Champ Sports Nationals in San Diego a week and a half from today. So shout out to her. I got a chance to talk to her coach for a little bit. We literally got there just in time to see her finish, which was really cool, because I'm like watching these girls come in. I'm like, oh, this is the championship race, and I'm like, oh, that's Leah. Whoa.
She cooked at WCAC.
Oh yeah,
she finished so far ahead of the pack.
She finished 2 minutes ahead of second place at the Private School State Championship meet. Yeah,
Very
she's very good.
Clearly, yes.
So yeah, shout out to her as well. So that will do it for episode 220 of the Sports Bars podcast. As I said before, you can follow us on all the social medias. You can hit that subscribe button so you always know when the latest episode drops. We should be back a week from today, next Wednesday, with Eric hosting episode 221. Until then, stay safe out there. Have fun. Enjoy this week of football, and we will catch you a week from now. Later.